Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday show, the early Sunday show. It's 1 o'clock Central. I'm at Dillahunty. Joining me, Promise Joy. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be hanging out. I had a bit of a wild day and was scrambling down to the last minute, but it's nice to sit, hang out, and hopefully take some good calls today.
I hope we do. This is a live call-in show. You can call 720-619-2288, or you can look down below us in the description to the show, and you'll find a link to call-in studio. If you're going to call in from call-in studio using your cell phone, please remember your cell phone is likely to go to sleep, and the browser that you're using is also likely to go to sleep. So if you're on hold for a little while, you may need to tap your phone to wake it up, and you may then need to tap the browser to wake it up so that we can hear you. Also, there's a little bit of a delay. It's seemingly unavoidable. We're going to do what we can, but what we want, see, Promise and I are both former believers. We used to believe in some version of Christianity. Maybe we got it wrong. Maybe we were indoctrinated into the wrong one and we just weren't indoctrinated into the right one. Maybe we've missed something when it comes to evidence. Maybe there's something we just haven't understood, but we both found our way out when all we were trying to do was affirm our beliefs so that we could share them and be confident. You know, when 1 Peter 3:15 gives you the instruction to be prepared at all times, Promise and I took that seriously, and we were trying to be prepared. So if you're someone out there who, and by the way, this doesn't just apply to the Christian God, if you're out there, someone out there who believes in some God, be it the Jewish, Christian, Muslim God, maybe, we can probably stay away from Scientology. I don't know. But if you have a personal God belief or anything else, or if you want to advocate for supernatural beliefs, because I barely know what the word spiritual means because it means so many things to so many different people. And I hear people saying, "Oh, I prayed and this happened. I prayed and God answered it." And I'm like, "How do you know it was a God answering it? That you prayed and something happened doesn't tell you how or why." And when people start making appeals to the supernatural, like, "Oh, you know, this is happening because it's a miracle and there's a being that exists outside space," how do you confirm the supernatural? All of those things we are keenly interested in, and we already have callers. We got a theist that's queuing up, but I think we'll start with an atheist if you're ready, Promise.
I am ready.
Sweet.
Let's chat.
So this person is calling from New Jersey. Their name is Moss. Pronouns are they, them. Says, I apologize, Moss. I've read your comment 3 times and I have no idea what it means because it says organized religion is, but religion isn't. And I would like to talk about that. What does it you mean, Moss? And welcome.
Hey, thank you so much. Yeah, I listened to a couple of videos before, and I've heard a lot of people say religion is harmful, or like, and it might not have been any of you who said it, but I have heard that comment, and I do believe organized religion is harmful, like the church, the money that flows through it, like all of that is harmful. But religion itself, like people practicing religion, whatever, it's not.
How can you say that? Which religion are they practicing that isn't harmful?
Hold on one second, sorry. Hi, sorry. Sorry about that. So, yeah, I mean, I just meant like people practicing on their own. Um, and like, I understand that like idealism is in general can be harmful because if you don't look at the material reality, it's just like, what are you doing? But, um, if there are so many people in the world, you can't like say this type of thinking is harmful
Yes, you
and
can.
then just, I guess you can, but I just meant like, you're right, you can. Um, I guess what
Yeah.
I'm saying is like, would it be, what would be the goal in general? Like,
The goal of what?
if religion is harmful in general,
I,
there
I
should be
think,
a
I
law
think,
that
I
says
think
something,
that
right?
personally, I think that devotion to ideas that have not demonstrated they are true and good is a bad thing, because whatever thought processes led you to be confident in something that is undeserving of confidence can also lead you to be confident in other things. Is it the most harmful thing ever? Well, no, it depends on what the specific beliefs are. But the point of pointing this out is that there are loads of people running around who have unwarranted confidence, and that impacts the decisions they make about who they're going to vote for and how they're going to treat people and what rights they think people should have. I saw, granted, I mean, this is categorized in part by uh, organized religions or prominent categories. But there was this proposal to grant legal status in the United States to all illegal immigrants who have held jobs and paid taxes for at least 3 years and have not been convicted of any felonies. And over 50% of every category that was polled is in favor. 53, 54, 56, 58, 59, 62, 63, all the way up. Atheists are 84% in favor of that. Muslims are 79% in favor of that. Black Protestants are 79% in favor of that. The only group that came in under 50% was white evangelicals uh, at 41%. And so I get that that fits into your organized category. However,
Hmm.
I would argue that there's plenty of people who are opposed to that and opposed to similar things because of their devotion to some idea that hasn't proven true. And that's why I would say it's harmful.
Mm. I mean, I do see what you're saying. I mean, I do agree in general. I just think that I guess what you're saying is that any kind of idealism is harmful in society. Um, so uh, like even spiritual things uh, would be harmful in society as well. Any kind of idealism,
Well, I don't know what you mean by spiritual things, but it- my
astrology, sorry, astrology, Baphomet.
astrology is
Uh,
spiritual.
there's not much based on science.
Okay. I guess,
It's
Moss,
not
I'm just
based in
confused
material
because
reality.
uh, so astrology can be debunked with one word, twins. But
Yes,
I don't know anything
exactly.
about it that's spiritual. But like I said at the beginning, I'm not convinced I even know what spiritual means, because it means you're proving the point that it means so many different things. Somebody thinks it applies to
Yeah,
astrology.
yeah. No, I totally agree. I use spirituality as a general term. Sorry.
Maybe you should start using pseudoscience as a general term, or
Yeah,
woo
yeah.
as a general term, because
Well,
I wouldn't want to
and that's what I
confuse what.
mean. That's
Yeah,
when I that's why I use idealism to describe all of these things.
sure.
Um,
But
but
now
yeah,
that we're in
no. So
agreement,
you would.
though, now that we're in agreement, I don't know what else to talk about. I got Atheist on hold.
No,
Did you have something else you wanted to hit real quick?
no, that's good. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Sure.
I appreciate the call.
Yeah, it's nice to start off the show with somebody who calls in with one idea and leaves in violent agreement. My work here is done, promise. The rest of the show is yours. Have fun.
No, gosh. I think, yeah, I think this whole idea about like, is it harmful or not if people are practicing at home versus within organized religion? And the problem is there's such a spectrum of that. Like, there can be people who practice within organized religion who are not harming others, and therefore I'm going to have less of a problem with their version of religion versus maybe somebody practicing at home who thinks that God told them to kill their kids and they're not part of organized religion and it's still really harmful. And that's why I prefer people to be skeptical. And I think skepticism is a much better way of viewing life as opposed to religion, because then we're actually trying to figure out what's true or not versus just serving some sort of dogma that could or may not be really harmful to somebody else.
Well, I tell you, we had a couple of callers on hold, but we lost one of them, and um, I'm just going to recommend they don't bother calling back with that particular claim, because it was essentially another atheist that wanted to suggest some people are so stupid that they need a god, and it's probably good they hung up, because I was going to point out how absolutely stupid it is to say that, and how the last time they called, because I have a record of what we discussed last time, they were similarly stupid about a different point.
Oh,
The thing
no.
is, nobody's cornered the market on being rational. Um, my IQ didn't go up when I stopped believing. Not that I give a shit about IQ. Um, People believe for a lot of different reasons. It may be stupidity in some occasions. It may not be. It may be confusion. It may be fear. It may be indoctrination. It may be, I kind of doubt it, but it may be that somebody out there has a really good reason to believe that a God exists. Um, I'm looking forward to hearing it, but it annoys the shit out of me when atheists, in particular, are like, religion is for the stupid people, the little people, the masses who can't figure this out, who wouldn't be good without it. Um, to whatever extent you might find those people, um, I don't see how that does any good or identifies. I mean, we get callers defending religion who are definitely not stupid,
Right.
not particularly skeptical. They often have flawed epistemology. And by the way, we also get callers that are stupid. And by the way, all of us have been stupid on a call at some point as well. Um, so, grats to your superiority, but don't call in with it. I'd rather take calls like this. Maybe we'll see.
We'll
Kevin
find
is a
out.
theist calling from Oregon, pronouns are he, him. Kevin says the Christian worldview is the best worldview, leaning toward Christian, and has some questions about secular humanism, has moral issues and questions about Christianity versus secular humanism. Hey, Kevin, what is the Christian worldview?
Hey, are you guys secular humanists?
Hey, Kevin, what is the Christian worldview?
What do you think it is?
I'm asking you, see, as someone who's formally was a part of that and has been interacting with believers. I think it's silly for you to ask me what the Christian worldview is, because I'm not a Christian, I'm an atheist, and you're the one calling in to defend it. So I'm asking you what the worldview is that you're defending.
Oh, I'm actually calling in to explore. I'm kind of leaning towards Christian ethics as a standard and grounding for my morality.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of trying
And
to
that's why I
explore,
asked you what you mean.
which is
And that's why I asked you what
better.
you, and that's why I asked you what you mean by the Christian worldview.
Oh, I'm still trying to figure that out. And I know you're very well versed on Christianity,
Well,
and you used to be a
Kevin,
Christian for a very long time. So I was hoping you could help me out with that.
Kevin, I'm going to help you out. I guarantee you. How can you be leaning
Okay.
towards something when you can't even describe what it is?
Well, I can describe somewhat what it is. I mean,
Then why didn't you? Then why didn't
to-
you
to
do that
me,
the
the
first two?
Christian-
Then why didn't you do that the
Christian-
first two? Then why didn't you do that the first 2 or 3 times I asked you instead of playing coy?
Well, it can't be summed up in just one quick little sentence.
I can
it's a
sum you
very
up in one
complex,
quick little
nuanced
sentence, Kevin. Would you
thing.
like me to?
So maybe we can get
Dishonest
into
as
a.
fuck. Dishonest as fuck.
Maybe we can get into a particular issue on it and
Maybe
explore
you
which
can answer
view
my
is better.
question because I don't think you're serious or honest,
Sure.
Kevin. So Kevin,
Sure. Yeah.
please, Kevin, just
So-
I don't know why you're talking at this point. Let me be very clear.
Oh,
You
you
called
asked me
in
a
to say,
question,
I,
so I was
I,
gonna
yes,
answer.
I asked you a question and you avoided it. Am I going to have to mute you to be able to talk? Because this is not going to go well for you if you don't stop.
Did you want me to answer that question now, or?
You know what? Let's do a poll. I'm going to put you back in the queue because you've called many times and this is incredibly frustrating. Because you're saying that you're considering using some Christian worldview as a foundation for your morality, and you'd like to compare with secular humanism. I understand that's what you called in for. And yet when I ask you, what do you mean by the Christian worldview? You avoid, then say you can, or you don't know enough, but then you say you can give a summary, but it can't be done in one sentence. At no point did I say, hey, give a 1-sentence summary. I asked you a question and you've done nothing but avoid it. So we're going to try this again. I'm going to start this call over from scratch. And the amount of time that you get to speak is going to be dependent on whether or not you can actually carry your end of the conversation and what the chat says. So here we go. Kevin's calling in from Oregon. Kevin's pronouns are he, him. He's a theist of some stripe, and he's leaning towards Christianity as a worldview with regard to morality and has questions about secular humanism. Hey, Kevin, what do you mean by Christianity? What type of Christianity are you going to lean on for your morality?
So the Christian worldview is a way of understanding reality based on the teachings of the Bible and the life of Jesus Christ. It answers big questions like, where did we come from? What's wrong with the world? What's the purpose of life? Do you want me to keep going?
No, because that tells me absolutely nothing about what you're going to base your morality on. You might as well just said Christianity is a religion that points to Jesus. Okay, what is it you're pointing to with regard to morality? For example, is divorce permitted, morally permitted under Christianity?
I'm not sure.
You're
I
not
think
sure.
so.
Okay, is slavery permitted?
No Christians believe slavery is permissible.
I'm sorry,
No
you
Christians
pointed to
believe
the
that.
Bible. You pointed to the Bible and Jesus, and now you're trying to point to Christians. The Bible absolutely advocates for slavery, and at no point does Jesus denounce or correct that. So instead of relying on Christianity or the Bible, you're relying on what modern Christians you've run across accept and don't accept. So you've already contradicted yourself.
Oh, would you say that loving your neighbor as yourself is like owning another person as property, or those things are both okay?
No, I wouldn't say they're both okay. What I would say is that when
okay. I'm a Christian,
I'm sorry,
not a Jew, so I love my neighbor as myself, and I wouldn't want to be owned
Kevin.
as property. So that's
I'm sorry,
my
Kevin.
worldview.
I'm sorry, Kevin. But first of all, when the Bible says love thy neighbor as thyself, you seem to be extrapolating what it means by neighbor. But my point was that the Bible, which is the foundation of Christianity in addition to Judaism, absolutely allows for slavery. And at no point does Jesus ever correct or change that, does he?
Yeah, as I stated, I love my neighbor as I would love myself.
No, he doesn't.
Meaning,
Kevin,
fellow human beings.
Kevin, those aren't your neighbors. I'm sorry, Kevin, but those aren't your neighbors. When the Bible says buy your slaves from the heathen that surround you, those aren't your neighbors in the Christian sense. your neighbors are fellow Christians. And so in the same way that the Bible has a different set of rules for, I'm sorry, you shouldn't be saying anything right now. In the same way that the Bible has a different set of rules for Jewish slaves than it does for Gentile slaves, the Bible has a different set of rules with regard to who counts as your neighbor and who doesn't. And at no point does Jesus ever condemn slavery, does he?
Oh yeah, many verses from
You're a liar.
verses from Jesus
You're lying.
definitely say we should love each
You're
other.
lying.
Yeah, that's
You're
like
lying.
the main whole message of the
You're-
book. Do you not?
You're lying,
You seem to be
Kevin.
confused about
You're
the
lying,
book
Kevin.
and what
You're
it's
lying,
trying to
Kevin.
communicate.
You're lying, Kevin. You're
Okay,
lying, Kevin.
so
You're
you're
lying,
telling
Kevin.
me
Give me
what my
one verse.
worldview is, correct?
Kevin, you're a liar. You're about to get banned from the show. Give me one verse where Jesus condemns slavery. One verse.
It's the whole book.
Goodbye, you liar. Goodbye, you liar. Kevin doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know the Bible. He doesn't know Christianity. He wants to get his airtime in by trolling and refusing to answer questions. And what's funny
he
is
went so quickly from saying he's leaning toward Christianity, and then in the second half of the call saying, "I'm a Christian." Like, what?
Yeah.
I thought you were trying to figure it out.
Yeah. See, Kevin is dishonest as fuck and has repeatedly been so. So apologies to the people who are new here. We don't think that Kevin represents the bulk of theists or Christians. I don't know what Kevin is or isn't, other than Kevin is repeatedly dishonest. If Kevin wanted to actually have a conversation on competing worldviews with regard to morality, we could have easily done that. But Kevin can't be honest. The fact of the matter is that the Bible repeatedly, consistently supports the concept of slavery. In Exodus 21, Leviticus 25, there's another passage in Deuteronomy. I'm not going to remember the actual chapter right now off the top of my head. And at no point in the New Testament does Jesus condemn slavery. At no point does the New Testament condemn slavery. The closest it comes is when Paul asks for the release of a friend of his who happens to be enslaved. But also the New Testament instructs slaves to obey their masters, even the cruel and wicked ones. That's the instruction the New Testament gives. And my position is that the only moral position one can take is to oppose slavery. And the only moral instruction that any sort of wise God could give someone is, if you are a slave, you should work to the best of your ability to free yourself and the other slaves, not just obey your master. But Kevin doesn't know what the Bible says. And so I don't believe for a second he's actually considering leaning towards Christian morality. I would actually almost bet money that Kevin is in fact an atheist who is either doing some sort of performance art or thinks he's helping because he's too clueless to really grasp this. All right. So I changed somebody's mind and I got rid of a troll. And now we're
And I've
turn
just
it.
been sitting here, so this has been
No.
lovely for me.
Now it's time to turn it all over to Promise.
No.
Okay, I'll help a little bit. But
Okay. All right.
James is calling from Pennsylvania, pronouns to him. James, the theist, who says, do we need God? Wants to answer the question, what do the hosts consider God to be? Referenced. James, it doesn't matter what, like, I don't have a God concept. I have considered many of them and found none of them convincing. So if you say we need a God, I guess you can tell us which God we need. So welcome to the show, James. You're on with Promise and Matt.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. Well, okay, so let's talk. So when I ask the question, what do you consider God to be? I'm just saying it as a general concept. So Jesus says God is the spirit, but to us in naturality, God
Real
is
quick,
in the Bible.
James, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but since you already said Jesus, I think we're already getting somewhere, which is great. I guess you believe in a God and you believe that it's the Christian God?
I believe in God as in the Christian God. The God is a spirit, means in that he's a spirit, not as in God as in physical, as in Jesus being a physical.
Right, we can get
God
to all of that, but
spirit,
if you're calling to answer the question, do we need God? Why don't you go ahead and define God for us? Because you're going to answer the question toward the God that you have in mind. So is it the Christian God that you're answering the question for us about?
Well, Jesus or God is whatever you want to be, because even the Bible says, Jesus says, the Bible, whatever you read, I don't know what you read, you are God's, lowercase g, you are God's, meaning we had the
So
breath of
James,
life.
are we talking about Zeus? Are we talking about the god
He just said
Thapio?
you and I are gods.
Oh,
The Bible
does not say
says
that.
you are God's, lowercase g. Jesus
No,
says
it doesn't.
Read
No,
it.
it doesn't.
Jesus said, yes, it does. Jesus says you are God's. Read it or look it up.
Where? What verse?
In the Bible, New Testament. Hold on, I have to go. I don't have the on part of say. Google it for me.
Maybe you should Google it or prepare. I literally. So I'm sorry.
I'm telling you,
I'm sorry.
In the Bible.
I'm sorry, James. Well, I don't know why you're trying to talk over us. We're literally trying to get you to defend your position, and you're starting off by. So I'm not a Bible expert, but I'm way more of an expert on the Bible than most people, and definitely you. There's no point at which Jesus in the Bible says that we are lowercase g gods. That's simply false. And as soon as you provide a verse, I'll retract that. Until then, you're just talking out of your ass.
I think you're.
Quote, you are
James.
God.
This
God
is James. I'm talking now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're referring to a verse that I used to incorrectly quote as a Christian. It's from Psalms, and then Jesus later repeats it. Is that what it is that you're talking about? Okay. Okay, cool. Go ahead. I still have zero idea how this is supposed to help us, because do you believe that God is, like, do you think that Jesus was a God?
In a lowercase sense, but it like.
Do you think there is James, do you think that there is an uppercase? Do you think that there is an uppercase God that exists?
God, as in, yes, in a spiritual sense, that means being something that you can't see, yes. How can I explain it? If the Bible, if we're going to use the Bible says he's the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning, the end, the first, and the last. So it's showing that he's everything. He's creating everything. He is in everything, and he is everything.
James, is this call just for you to tell us that everything is God?
It's everything is created, yes, basically. And I'm calling to say that breath of life.
Well, that's really not interesting to me.
Life, he breathed into Adam. We didn't have the breath of life, which is God. We wouldn't be here in the first place. Am I not? Am I wrong or am I not? Whatever you consider, because God is everything. So whatever you want to consider God to be, unless
James,
like you say, you
slow
don't
down,
God
take a breath.
Hey,
James, just take a breath for me, because we're not having a conversation. You're just going off, and then we get a word in, and then you just go off. So let's try to have a conversation for a second.
Okay.
So you just said something about what do we believe? I'll tell you where I am on this issue. I don't believe that a God exists. It sounds like you do, I think. Do you believe that a God exists?
If God being the spirit or everything, yes. Without
what is God, a spirit? So, James, what is a spirit?
What is a spirit? A spirit is the breath of life, the character, the character that we display. So, like they talk about the Holy Spirit in the Bible, how we display love, kindness, meekness, gentleness, goodness, perfect. The characteristics of Christ.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Again, let's slow down. Like if we talk a little slower, we pause, we're going to have a better conversation. So you're describing like different attributes, and then you're going on again to say that everything is God. So I'm confused as to why I should care then. If everything is God, what's the point? Why can't I then just say everything is love, everything is hope, everything is blue? Like if it doesn't matter, if all these different things are also this one thing, and that's all that one thing is, why should I care? It sounds like you're just assigning a word and saying, well, this word also means everything in an existence. And I'm trying to find out what the value is in that, and if it's anything other than you meaninglessly, baselessly taking a word and assigning it to every single thing that exists.
Well, that's what basically we did in the first place, because if you think about it, there was nothing at first. So in Genesis, he told Adam to go name this and name that, and so it was to be. So yeah, that's how you want to look at it. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And even the Big Bang Theory, and I'm just talking, is the science proving that what the Bible said is true. God spoke. God said, "Let there be," and then things were created.
No. So James,
it's not.
I'm sorry, but Big Bang cosmology in no way demonstrates that the Bible is true, and Genesis is cartoonishly wrong, both on the order of events. Um, it sounds like you've gotten some half understood information, which it was true right back to when you were trying to quote John 10, because in John chapter 10, where Jesus says, "I said you were gods," that's not Jesus saying that. That's Jesus quoting Psalms, and that was the point. See, you took John 10, essentially 34, and said, that's Jesus saying we're gods. But that's not what that verse meant at all. That was him responding and quoting, I think it's Psalm 82. Yeah, Psalm 82:6. So that's not Jesus saying we're gods. That's him using the Psalms to respond to the people who are accusing him. So you've misunderstood the passage in the New Testament, and you've misunderstood the science as it relates to Genesis. I'm wondering, what reason can you come up with? Like, you believe there's a God and that God is the creator. What reason should Promise and I believe that there is a creator God?
I was saying you could believe it any way you want to. This is how I look at it, because the Bible even talks about did not deny science, and it talks about it kind of in James. So, but I'm saying the Bible says, God said, let there be, and these things were created. But that's just the same way as science saying, or whether they're probably using Scientology, them saying, oh, well, the Big Bang Day, atoms,
oh my God,
these things grew.
James.
I mean, it's your perspective. It's how you're looking at it, actually.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry. I'm looking for evidence and reasoned argument to support the notion that there's a God. And just so you know, Scientology is a cult that has nothing to do with science.
So what do you believe that you were made from? What do you believe that you came from? What do you believe?
I came from a sperm and an egg from my parents.
And then what do you believe from farther back? Let's just go back to history. How did everything was created then? How do you see everything being
Everything
created?
wasn't created.
You got the Big Bang there.
I'm sorry. Are you going to ask the questions and answer them, or do you want us to answer?
I was saying just you ain't let me finish. You hopped on to when I was going to say you got the Big Bang there, and then I was going to say and then.
I'm sorry. At what point, James? At what point did I say that I expect Big Bang cosmology? You're asking me the question, and then you're answering for me.
Okay, okay. Are you an atheist?
Yes. Which question would you like me to answer next? Go ahead.
What do you believe as an atheist? What do you believe as an atheist?
As an atheist, there's nothing tied to that belief. Atheism is not being convinced that a God exists. I believe in many things, but not as an atheist.
So can I ask you, what do you believe? Just in general,
about
not as
what?
an atheist. What do you believe?
I'm sorry.
In creation, how it was made, or anything. What do you believe?
Well, I guess I don't get to answer any questions because you're not listening to the answers and you're trying to give them. So we have an understanding from Big Bang cosmology and other models of an expansion of the universe that currently is the best scientific explanation, that is backed up by observations of cosmic microwave background radiation. And at some point, the building blocks of life, the more complex molecules that are out there, became more prevalent. And while we do not know exactly how abiogenesis occurred or how many times it's occurred or where it's occurred, it is intuited that it did occur. And then evolution by means of natural selection explains the diversity of life here on Earth, beginning with simple beginnings and becoming more complex over billions of years.
So you were kind of same thing. This is what you believe, because you said it doesn't really show it. So it's kind of like a fake thing.
No. That's not what I said at all.
I get it.
That's not what. No, you don't get it, James. You don't get it. And this is why, once again, you're respinning it. I believe, and my confidence is proportional to the evidence for it. There is no evidence at all that anything supernatural exists, can possibly exist. There is no evidence at all that anything supernatural can interact with reality or should be considered a candidate explanation for anything. You don't get to go back to, hey, science doesn't have a complete understanding here. Therefore, any bullshit I make up or my pastor makes up or my religion makes up is on equal footing. No, it's not. Not all things are on equal footing, even if they're not all certain. So, what reason do you have for us to believe in a God? Because I think the Bible is a storybook written by people that is not true when it makes supernatural claims. You believe differently. Why?
I guess you didn't listen to me. As I said before, God is a spirit. So God is, and also God is the Alpha, which is the Alpha, Omega, the beginning and the end.
James,
God
James,
was. And
James,
so God
James,
is a spirit, meaning
James,
anything
James,
or everything.
James.
Everything.
Okay, I'm going to mute you, James, because you
So-
won't stop. I know what the Bible
Okay.
says. I've read it. I've taught it. I used to believe it. I was a fundamentalist Southern Baptist. I know that it claims God is the Alpha Omega. I know it claims that there's a God. I told you I do not believe the Bible. What evidence do you have for why we should believe the Bible? Quoting the Bible is not evidence for the Bible.
Well, I would have to say, if I had to say anything, I would have to say, all I could use would say is science, because
No,
the Bible
it's not,
connects to me,
James.
it connects
No,
to
it's
science.
not. James, I'm going to mute you. Listen to me very carefully. Science does not in any way confirm or point to a God. Science, by definition, is predicated on methodological naturalism. It does not get to propose the supernatural, and it cannot confirm or affirm the supernatural. So, what science do you think points to a God? Because you're wrong, but I want to know what science you think points to a God.
So again, we have the Big Bang Theory. So science can't prove that we have a spirit. Thing you're saying? Is that a good question to come and ask? Science can't prove we have a spirit.
Well, that's part of it, but science does not in any way deal with claims of supernatural origin. So it can't affirm any supernatural claims. So what science do you think affirms a God?
What science do I think affirms a God? Let me think. That's a good question. I would have to look that up and come back to you with that. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'll have to look that up and come back to you. But I can tell you there's a God.
Yeah, you can tell me, but you can't demonstrate it. You can't make an argument. You can't provide evidence. I don't need people to tell me. I need people to demonstrate.
You want to see God personally. That's what you're saying.
No,
But
that's
God
not what
can't
I'm
do it.
saying, James. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I want someone to present an evidence-based, non-fallacious, reasoned argument where the conclusion is, therefore, a God exists.
Again, like all I can say is Christ said God is a spirit. Not so. I don't know what you want.
No, he didn't. You have no evidence at all that any Christ ever existed or said anything. You just have a story.
Well, yeah, I'll say, yeah, okay, we have a story because the words are written by man. So we just have to have faith, which I'll leave it at. I'll leave it at.
Well, is faith a pathway to truth?
Belief, yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
Belief,
Can I have name a position? Name a position. Like, I could believe that men are better than women, and I could take that on faith. I could believe that people of one race are better than people of another race. I could take that on faith. I could believe that Mars is made of green cheese. I could take that on faith. None of those beliefs are true, and yet I could use faith for all of them, right?
Yeah.
So if faith isn't a reliable path to truth, why is it the best reason you have for a God?
I don't know. I guess I can say my faith is strong. Like I said, I look at the Bible from a
Your
different
delusion is
perspective.
strong.
Huh?
How do I tell the
delusion?
difference between your faith being justified and strong and your faith being delusional and strong?
I mean, that's neither here or there. All I can say is faith.
No, it is here.
Essential.
Here's
No,
here.
the faith
It's so weird for you to say it's neither here nor there when that's the exact point. You're affirming. You are affirming something. You are affirming something and not demonstrating it. And then you're using faith as an excuse. So thank you for showing a great example of my definition of faith, which is faith is the excuse people give when they don't have a good reason for their beliefs. I would like to have my beliefs be justified by good reasons, and that's why I don't make appeals to faith for anything. Faith is garbage. Faith is wishful thinking. Faith is delusion on parade.
I mean, if that's how you feel, I'm not trying to change what you believe. All I'm just trying to let you know that.
Well, you called the wrong show then, because I absolutely do not give the slightest fuck about people who are just going to call in and assert things that they won't and can't defend and aren't going to engage in conversation and then say, well, if that's how you feel, I'll just let you feel that way. It's not about how I feel. It's not about how I feel. It's not about how I, it's not about how, it's not about how I feel. It's not about how I feel. It's not about how I, it's not about how I feel. It's not about how I feel, James. It's about what the evidence show.
I mean, like I said, to you it doesn't show anything, but to me it does. Like I said,
no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't show anything to you either. I'm going to mute you because I'm so sick of you getting it wrong. You just said it doesn't. The evidence doesn't show anything to me, but it shows something to you. No, it fucking doesn't. If the evidence showed something to you, you'd be able to explain to us what the evidence is showing you. That's how evidence works. Evidence isn't a personal thing that just shows something to you. That's why one person's scientific findings is independently verified by other people, because that's the way evidence fucking works. You know what doesn't work that way? Faith and delusion. Faith and delusion work the way you're describing, where the two of us can actually look at a situation and you think the evidence is showing you something and nobody else does. You got anything else, James? Oh, James left.
Well, the most honest he was when he called it faith, but then couldn't understand how that's a terrible reason to believe something. Also, he really didn't want to talk to me, so at least you were able to get somewhere with him.
It's interesting because I'd love to get like Justin or Dalton or somebody in to talk about that passage from John 10, because Jesus is not saying you are gods. The Psalm 82 says, I, God Most High, say, you are gods, my sons, but you will die as all people must die. Your life will end like that of any ruler. And so Jesus is being questioned in John chapter 10. And it's very much a, you know, who do you say that I am thing? I and the Father are one. And what you end up getting is this passage where someone who hasn't bothered to read or study or think about their Bible and the consequences of what they're taking away from it, they read, John 10:34, Jesus answered them, is it not written in your law, I said ye are gods? Now, first of all, this is a coy thing from Jesus, because he's saying, I said ye are gods. And the psalm that he's quoting says, God Most High says ye are gods. And so the whole thing is they're addressing him for blasphemy, and he's blaspheming right back at them in verse 34. Because if the psalm was God Most High said you are gods, and Jesus is like, didn't I say ye are gods? It is not the claim. This is jousting, because in the very next verse he changes it from I to they to he, if he called them gods, unto whom the word of God came, and the scriptures cannot be broken, say ye of him from the Father hath sanctified, and sent into the world, thou blasphemest, because I said, I am the Son of God. If I do not the works of my Father, believe me not. But if I do, though you believe not me, believe the works. So this is Jesus coming under fire for supposed blaspheming. And he references a passage where it's attributed to God Most High in order to put him once again co-equal with God, to kind of rub it in their faces as he's like, look, judge me by what I do. Am I doing what God wants? If so, whether you believe in me or not, I must be God. I must be a son of God. I must be doing the right thing. But this is part of the problem when you have a book this old and
Right.
it's translations of copies of oral traditions where languages have changed and context is around. We have no originals. We don't know who wrote it, even despite the fact that you're going to find it in red letters in there. You have no evidence that this was actually said by Jesus. It is a story. And at the end of the day, it's definitely not Jesus saying you are gods in the sense that our previous caller here, James, would like it to say. Because he was
Which
trying to say that me and Promise are gods.
I don't understand why he would want that to be what it says, because then we're contradicting other parts of the Bible where God says that he's the only God. So if you're not going to believe, which it's impossible to believe all of it because it contradicts itself so many times in other places, but like if you're going to quote it there, it's so weird that then you're willing to just discount this other part. So it's again what Christians are doing all the time. It's the same sort of cherry picking. It's where you have the belief and then you have to go find ways to justify it because, as he said at one point when he was honest, which is that it's faith. So you're just believing something for no good reason. To me, faith equals no good reason. So congrats, I guess. But like you were asking, why take anything on faith? And why this of all things?
Also, he was trying to do that to say that you and I are gods. And if we're gods, what do we need a god for? If I'm a god, I don't need a god.
I mean, I guess I wonder if that's where he was going, which is because the question of the show is, do we need a God? And then he was going to say, well, you need yourself or whatever. Okay, so again, we're just redefining things until they're so meaningless that it's like, why are we even using words to communicate anymore? Very frustrating. But maybe there's a theist listening. I thought I saw some in the comments. I know I saw them in my comments, and I assume they have clicked over on the link and are listening, that have some hopefully better arguments for the existence of a God other than faith. And if your only argument for the existence of a God is faith, I'd still be interested in that call if they want to tell us why faith should be taken seriously in this situation or in any situation, really.
Well, let's try some more. We've got Reed in Arizona. Pronouns are him. Reed's an agnostic who says, I think we need to define God. Thinks there's a lot of strife that comes from my God is better than your God. Well, yeah, Reed, there's a lot of people who believe in a lot of different gods. So welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, Matt? What's up, Promise?
Same
there.
old, same
I
old.
was listening in on James, and I just sort of I try to find the middle way, and so I don't think this is going to be a long call. It's just going to be more so a discussion. I like the discussion that you guys took, James's, but I find it rather. I find the evidence in the documents. Like, there's no document that exists that didn't rely on a human pen. I think humans create gods and create the words that then we use to hey, the word became God. Okay, someone wrote that down. And so faith is cool, God is cool, but in the end, if you can't bring that back to I think it's Alan Watts that says, what's the difference between you and the God that you believe in? Kind of the mixture of those things just takes the conflict out of the differences if people can have the maturity to have a conversation.
I'm confused
Yeah,
about all kinds of stuff. But go ahead,
I
Promise.
start all of the, at least when I'm taking the lead in the phone call, I pretty much always start, which some people complain about this. I start my phone calls with what on the show, not in real life, but on the show, I start my phone calls with what God do you believe in? And then I say and why. And so the what God do you believe in part is the opportunity for the caller to let me know what, the definition of their God, because you're right, it varies from person to person. But I think we spend a lot of phone calls where that is kind of what we're doing, is trying to figure out, okay, when you say a God, what is it that you're talking about? James, to me at least, maybe I'm just stupid, was never able to fill me in on exactly what he meant by a God, because it was us, then it was everything, then it was the spirit, now we're back to the Bible. So that's when things do
Yeah,
get
and
confusing, is when people aren't honest, or maybe just like confused themselves and don't even know what it is they believe, and have abstracted something so far past the point of communication just to fit their belief that now there's no point in us talking to them, which I think is what just happened.
and becoming codependent on the Bible is what I think.
Well, I wish he would have been more codependent on it in this situation, because then we may have had more clarity. Instead, he was like kind of bouncing into it and then out of it. It was very interesting, but that's what happens a lot. And I like when he said faith, it's like, okay, now we're throwing in another thing that's so abstract and meaningless that we're losing the ability to converse. And it is really frustrating how often that happens. I don't know if you're just pointing that out to commiserate with us, which I'll take, or if you had more you wanted to add to
I'm
that.
Definitely not.
But
I'm
I think
definitely
I
not
get what you're
trying
saying.
to support either side or argue my point or be right. That's what I'm trying to get away from. Is like people do what they need to do. But I was raised in Mormonism, so grew up being taught how to worship a male creator God in a patriarchal organization, in a patriarchal culture, and finding my way out. I have found my way to navigating different ways, and so
Can I challenge you
when people
on
come and
something
ask
real
me-
quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So when you started off, you said, I try not to take a side. I just try to take the middle. I'm curious why and maybe this is true and maybe you just worded it that way, but why wouldn't your goal be to determine what is true or not? Because sometimes that means taking a hard side. Sometimes it means saying, I don't know, which is where I end up landing all the time. But I'm just curious as to why you find the middle to be better than what is true, which, like I said, sometimes would require you to form a hard stance on something.
Yeah, I think I do try to ground myself in what is true. That's how I change my mind. And I think I find a lot more truth that changes my mind than, sort of sets me in what I thought I already knew. But that doesn't mean that what I already knew is all bad or wrong or worth dropping. One of the things that
Are you trying to say that you try to see from all different perspectives before forming an opinion? Like, is that?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
A broader perspective is more useful to me than filtering my perspective. I think that's a good way of saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, this was one of two things that I had written down at the beginning of the call that I was going to get back to. So I'm glad Promise did, because I don't think you've answered really, like, but I'll set it aside because I don't understand someone who's like, oh, I tend to look for the middle path. I only look for the truth, and the truth, I find, is very rarely in the middle, or at least not that middle. But also, you said faith is a good thing, and I don't know what you mean by that.
I don't remember saying that. I think I was saying faith is good for some people, but
how is it good for some people and not others?
Well, because you can't rely on people behaving in the way that you would wish them to. And so acting on faith to say, hey, I want to make a request of somebody, can be useful to gain something you might not have before. But I think that gets twisted in a book that gets extra attention on.
I don't understand what you're
setting that
saying.
aside into a spiritual realm.
I don't understand what you're saying. How is faith good for some people and not others? Because as far as I can tell, faith is crap all the time.
Well, I guess some of my use of faith is I act in good faith towards other people when I make requests or when I accept requests of, to engage and to navigate. So it's a different sort of faith than what's being thrown around with Christian versus.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. Faith and good faith. I don't know what you mean.
What would your definition be? And maybe I can compare.
Faith is the excuse people give for believing something when they don't have a good reason. It's fine to have confidence and trust that are warranted by the evidence, but that's not faith.
And when I hear the term good faith, to me that's just like, oh, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I think that's just a saying that we happens to have the word faith, but I don't think that those are related at all, or should be anyways.
You're taking a risk because you're not completely sure that the risk is warranted, but you're kind of stepping out on a limb, and that's probably how it gets called something like good faith.
Or without an agenda, sort of thing, maybe.
I don't know what that means.
Well, I'm just following through with what does it mean when someone says acting in good faith? It's sort of acting in a way that you're not trying to control the outcome, sort of thing. You don't know what the outcome is going to be, and you're behaving in a way that you can accept any outcome. But that doesn't mean that I can still say
I still don't understand.
Faith is good for people. And maybe it's just a different.
Why is I'm still trying to figure out why faith is good for people, but now you're saying, so like, what's the purpose of going into a conversation if you have no intention to defend your position, do not necessarily think your position is right, and have no interest in the outcome?
I think I can be. I think I can gain knowledge from accepting the value in a conversation where someone can know more than I do. And I do
that all the time. That's called learning. There are plenty of people who know more than I do, and I gain, but that's my motivation. I don't go into those conversations without an agenda. My agenda is to learn.
Right. And learning means you know enough to speak your mind, and you accept that some things are going to be new, even if you have some resistance to that at first. You can use questions to determine, okay, so I'm sure it's a general personality trait of myself, and I can see where the middle way from how you guys are saying it seems wishy-washy. And
you were raised Mormon?
It's already been said, but for me, yes, I did, yeah. I was, the middle child of 8 kids.
You have been trained over your entire life to avoid conflict, right?
Pretty much up to about 35, and that's when I.
No, you're still avoiding conflict. It's fine. It means that you're unlikely to piss people off, but also I'm not convinced that it's a reliable or useful way to figure out what's true and to like. When's the last time you took a stand on something?
I went out yesterday, and I walked out with a lot of people there on the street and had signs and.
In the No Kings thing?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
I enjoyed it. It was great.
Then keep doing that, because that's definitely not the middle.
Exactly.
Yeah, I really appreciate the self-awareness that you have, Reed, about this. I can totally relate. I used to be very conflict avoidant for similar reasons, and now obviously I don't struggle with it so much. I have learned the like asset that it can be in life and how it makes things better most of the time. And I would encourage you, like, for example, and this is not to pick on you, it says that you're agnostic. I'm an atheist. I wonder, I'll ask you this so I don't have to assume. Does being agnostic as opposed to atheist make you feel that you're more open to truth than an atheist?
When I reflect, I feel like I don't have any evidence for a God. And then I remember what it was like when I believed for, more than 30 years of my life, and made every decision according to that. And so I would not shy away from saying I'm an agnostic atheist. And
yeah, okay, cool.
So yeah.
That's kind of what I was going to get at, is to like, what helped me be able to feel comfortable, picking sides, so to say, is I can change my mind still. Like if I'm presented with better information,
Exactly.
there's no reason I can't change my mind again. However, with the best information I have, if I'm pretty convinced that this is the thing, then I would like to, interact with reality in the way that I believe it is. Not like, well, I got to hold out because what if the little bit of chance that I'm wrong? Then I'm going to miss out on all kinds of living and getting somewhere in a conversation and learning other things. And sometimes it's in the times too where I've been like, you know what, I think this is it, but I don't know for sure. But I'm willing to like have the conversation with somebody and actually draw a line that I was able to learn from that. So just throwing that out there, it sounds like you're already taking steps towards doing that. I think it's also some like exposure therapy where you just have to get used to the conflict, because at first that can feel kind of icky where you're like, oh my God, somebody's mad at me. And that's a really awful feeling when you've been trained to avoid that at all costs. But in general, I love that it sounds like you're wanting to hear people out. You're wanting to come from a really honest and earnest place. But I just encourage you, you can do that and hold strong positions. I finally learned a lot, thanks to Matt, that I can do that, because I was definitely like, well, I'm like agnostic / maybe the universe is God, so that I don't piss people off. I'll say that. I'll try to, instead I just pissed like the most amount of people off by saying that. But now I've been able to get more secure in where I'm at, and I've learned more, and it's made me even more secure. And I also, like, if somebody were to call this show and convince me that a God exists, I would be the first to say, wow, I was wrong. Got to change my mind again, because I've done it before. I would do it again. So just I'm sorry, I'm like actually preaching at you now, but I just relate so much, and I appreciate the call. And I just want to encourage you that it gets even easier, it gets more fun, and you will be able to like feel firm in your positions and also feel still that you're open to truth at all times. So
Yeah.
anyways, that's the end of my rant.
Very
Sorry.
much. And I don't ever want you to apologize for doing something awesome like speaking your mind. But yeah, I actually, I do face conflict pretty well. Like there are several cases where I don't know, I'm a very de-escalating personality. Like I don't stay angry as well as people around me with confrontation. And some of my best friendships are with people that, since I left religion, I found and really appreciated that they give me the reflection of conflict instead of what I grew up with. Like I can believe their compliments because I hear their valid judgment, complaint, sort of thing. And that, for some reason, is like one of the things that makes it so like I work really hard on those connections to be able to be present for those both sides of, earning the compliments and earning the constructive critiques as well. So
yeah, authenticity.
I
I think that's what like a lot of religion is missing in culture and religion. I don't know if you felt that way growing up as a Mormon, but I felt like growing up in evangelicalism, authenticity was not there. And it's a weird journey. Like transitioning over to starting to value that. So anyways, more power to you. I don't know if Matt wanted to
Thank
add
you.
anything or if you had anything
I'm
else
good.
you wanted to add. Thanks,
Yeah,
Reed.
it's nice to to have a call that's not feeling argumentative. And thank you, Matt. Thank you, Promise. Enjoy.
But if you ever want to call and argue about something, we're here.
Reed,
All right.
Reed called once upon a time as a deist, so I'm going to
Oh,
just
nice.
take
We're
all the
already-
progress and run with it. So
Thanks,
care.
Reed.
Sweet.
Bye-bye.
all right. Well, hang on. We had a caller.
Did we lose the theist?
We keep losing callers.
Theist, give us a call. You'll get bumped to the top. We'll have a chat. You will already probably be ranked the best theist caller of the day if it just goes slightly better than talking to James. So, which I think could be pretty easily done. If you can just give us a straightforward answer as to what God you believe in and why.
Yeah, I was all excited because we were getting ready to talk about science and religion coexisting and possibly
Man,
Stephen Jay Gould's disastrous idea of non-overlapping magisteria, and was going to get to talk about all that. But instead, Hank's calling from California. Hank's pronouns are he, him, and Hank's an atheist struggling with thoughts of death and the afterlife. Hey, Hank, how are you?
Good, Matt. How are you, Matt? How are you, Promise?
I'm all right.
doing all right.
Good. So sorry to disappoint them, theist caller.
It's not your fault.
I was a Christian, and I am going through my whole deconstruction. I feel like I'm like 98% of the way there. Final boss is fear of hell. I'm even a therapist, and when people say I talk to God, my first knee-jerk reaction is like, what does God say to you? How long has these thoughts been going on? I've been I'm in a relationship with a believer, and I want to spend the rest of my life with her. And I'm starting to have those flare-ups of the fear of the afterlife and like being separated away from her, and kind of like, you want to go back to the religion where you find you don't see it as logical or see any evidence, but if it makes you want to be with her, then that's cool. It sounds stupid, I know.
It doesn't sound stupid
But-
to me. I understand the mental gymnastics that can keep happening once your brain has been used to doing them for so many years. But I would ask you, like you said something about going back. I mean, could you actually believe that you and your partner are going to be reunited in the afterlife? Like do you actually think that that's going to happen?
It's not, it's like, for me personally, I'm like, nope, that's it. But I kind of keep going back to the whole, like, but what if, So that's where I'm at.
Right. I
Like,
think if you're being really honest with yourself, you know that you have no reason to assume that you will. And therefore, it makes the most sense to live as though this is it. This is the one life you've got. I get that the fear part is there. And that's something we always refer people to recovering from religion for. But I also just wonder how much of this is you wanting to avoid, which is like what I was taught to do growing up, avoid reality basically and avoid grief. I think that so much of religion is there to kind of coddle us through grief instead of letting us actually like come face to face with a big part of life, which is death and things ending. And I think that's what gives so much value to life and to the time that we have with people, is that it isn't going to be forever. And we never know when it's going to be up. And that should be a really big motivating factor to making the best of what we do have. I know for me, it really helps ground me and helps me figure out like what does and doesn't matter in life, and how I want to treat people, and how I want to, like, the last time I see somebody each time, like, I want to give them a hug and a kiss goodbye. Well, some people a kiss. but a hug goodbye. And I it's a big motivating factor for me that this is finite. And so that's helped me a lot. I don't know if that kind of thought process can help you get past this, but I do think that so much of this hope for an afterlife is an avoidance of grief, and that possibly reading some books on grief, I don't know if you're the type that likes to read, or just diving into what grief is, all of that could be really beneficial. Because a lot of grieving kind of happens before we ever face it too. If we let it, if we let ourselves come to terms with reality.
I love the way that you put that. Sorry, I was writing that down. A lot of times we think about grief in regards to another person, but I think it's, good to also introspect on our, impending doom and death and, dealing with that type of grief. So I love how you put it that. That I really like that. It's really hard, the last deconstruction. I mean, even my dog tags when I was in the military, I still had Catholic just out of habit, just because I was like, well, I mean, I don't want somebody to just pass me over if I'm like freaking out. Just be like, hey, just talk to me for a little bit as I die. But that's neither here nor there. But the last part, I think, really is what was the thing that scared me when I was a Christian, was that it's just like, well, you're gonna go to hell. Fire is hot. Fire bad. So
which hell?
Yeah.
Which hell are you afraid of, and why aren't you afraid of the other ones?
I guess I mean, half my family is Buddhist, so I just assume that I get reincarnated as a tapeworm, and so I could just try again. But
that didn't answer the question.
I think I was just raised with the fire and brimstone one, and so that one was kind of just burned into my head as a kid.
Why aren't you afraid of the other ones?
That's a good question, actually.
I mean, how much time have you spent worrying about some other religion's version of hell?
That is a very good question. I have no answer for that.
Yeah, you'll either use that to figure out that you shouldn't be worried about the one you're worried about, or I've just sent you down a spiral where now you'll be worried about every hell from every religion. And Pascal's wager is basically this whole thing of, do I try to avoid the worst hell, or do I try to seek the best heaven? Or do I just realize, hey, I don't have any reason to think any of this stuff is real, and every single second I spend worrying about it is a second I didn't get to spend loving the people I love?
I always go by the philosophy of I'm probably wrong, just for spiritual stuff.
You'll do great when you get married.
Thank you so much. But yeah, thank you so much for your guys' insight. It was really helpful.
Sure. Best of luck. I'm glad you found somebody. I don't understand relationships where one person's a believer and one person's not, but I've known some that have lasted for ages, lasted longer than marriages between atheists and stuff. So I just know what I can't do. And so it's always interesting when I hear folks that are making it work.
Thank you so much. If you want to argue, I think my cat is the cutest cat on the planet. So if you want to argue about that, but if not, thank you so much.
You are absolutely wrong, and the producer can chime in right now to tell you you're wrong, right?
That's correct. We have the cutest cat on the planet. Sorry to say.
There you go.
There's the word of God.
Nice try, Hank, but you failed.
I do that often, so I appreciate it.
See, you're always wrong.
Aww.
Anyway, thanks, Hank. Appreciate
the call.
Well, no matter who has the cutest cat or the cutest dog, even though it's us, we also have some of the cutest snakes and some of the cutest lizards. And
you guys have geckos, right?
Yes.
I love geckos.
As a matter of fact, I cleaned out some enclosures for a handful of gargoyle geckos that are currently in enclosures in the main snake room, and verified that 2 of the 4 are in fact female, as they had laid eggs, but we had never paired them, so the eggs were just, I mean, they're duds. But it just shows that those geckos are definitely of the reproducing age, and yep, time to get them labeled and paired.
A truly disgusting question that is also maybe stupid. So great. Do people eat reptile eggs? Like, do people like scramble up a snake egg or a gecko egg and eat it?
I don't know that I've seen anybody do that, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean,
I mean, somebody has, I'm sure.
Sure.
But I'm just wondering, like, is this like a thing?
I mean, there's some restaurant out there where you can get like ostrich egg and quail egg and all that stuff.
I've
And
had quail eggs.
Birds are reptiles.
Right.
So, yeah, I guess the biggest difference is, hey, we have 10 eggs that our female black-tailed crebo laid yesterday, but she wasn't paired in the winter either. So they're all duds. Arden, you want to scramble some of those up? See what happens?
Oh my God.
I don't think so. No, that sounds really
I don't think so
horrible.
either.
I feel so disturbed with myself for even like having this, I don't want to call it an idea, just like the question. But I did have to ask. I do like quail eggs. They have those here at the grocery store, and I get them as a little snack every now and then. But something about like a gecko egg makes me like, no, not cool.
Yes, for the person in chat saying birds are reptiles, what? Yes, you cannot evolve out of a clade. All right, we got more callers lining up now. This one, by the way, if you're a theist, you'll go straight to the front of the queue. If you're someone advocating for a way to test for or confirm the supernatural, you're going to go straight to the head of the queue. We are desperately looking for something more than I read the Bible and the Bible says, or I read the Quran and the Holy Quran says. Because I would say, and I don't want to speak for both of us, but I would say that level of justification of I read the Bible and I believed what it says is the reason that we were believers previously. Like I definitely felt like there was more evidence and good evidence, and look at the trees, and a building must have a builder, and all this stuff. And then when you realize the fallacies in that reasoning, whether it's strict logical fallacies, whether it is confusion about how to recognize design, whether it is a God of the gaps fallacy, where here's something we don't know or don't have a complete explanation for, so you stick God in because it's a magic panacea that makes you feel like you answered a question when you didn't. I think that maybe every time I hear someone use God as the answer for a question, in my head now, instead of it being profound, they might as well have just said, because. Why is there something rather than nothing? Because. How did the universe come to be? Because. I mean, that's kind of where my brain goes when I hear God did it. But we have an interesting call here. I do not understand. So let's see. Chase is an atheist from Virginia. Pronouns are he, him. And it says here, do the hosts believe they are individual, or whether the visual in the mirror does not see the visual in the mirror? And Chase, I don't understand what you're asking. So welcome to the show. Please kind of do a quick summation of what you'd like Promise and I to address.
Hey, Matt and Promise. Good to meet you. Yeah, I could see how that could come in a little unclear. But so I'm kind of curious to know if you and Promise believe that you are individuals with your own separate existence. Like I would say, like religious people who believe they have a personal relationship with God, or that they just believe in God, or we have evidence that God exists, but they believe that they're separate individuals with like their own sort of unique existence that like exists independently of other people's existence. So do you believe that as well?
It's still not clear what you mean, because I definitely believe that Promise and I are individuals that
I feel
have
like you're asking, like, if we think they're NPCs or something. Am I hearing this wrong?
No, I'm not asking if you think you're NPCs. Okay, I can go to the visual in the mirror thing. So when you look in the mirror, do you believe that what you're seeing in the mirror is what is actually seeing the visual?
I don't know what you mean, because when I look in a mirror, my brain constructs an image of reality based on the sensory information, just like it does when I'm not looking in a mirror.
Right.
Are we heading up to the
Okay.
problem of hard solipsism or something? I genuinely don't understand what you're asking. So I think that all three of us are individuals that experience a reality and have our own independent thoughts and feelings about a reality that we apparently share, but I have no way of proving that we share reality, and I have no way of proving that any of us are real except for me. That's, Descartes' cogito ergo sum as an attempted solution to the problem of hard solipsism, but it fails because it assumes the primacy of reason. So when I look into the mirror,
so what do you...
I see the physical package of matter that I define as me.
Okay, so when you see that physical appearance or image in the mirror, that's what you mean when you say me?
Well, that's what I see is part of me. I see the outside of me.
It's a reflection of whatever part is in the mirror. That's the physical part,
Like,
the
for example,
outside
when I look
physical
in,
part.
when I look in the mirror, I don't tend to see my kidneys, but they're part of me. I don't tend to see my brain,
Right.
but that's part of me. And then there's the internal construct is something that my brain builds. I don't know what you're asking.
Okay, so the body, right? Like the visual you see in the mirror that's looking at itself, right? Do you think that the visual that you're seeing in the reflection is alive, or do you feel like you're alive and that's how you're able to see something in the mirror, or how anything's possible to appear at all?
I'm alive. The light reflected in the mirror is not alive as far as I can tell.
Okay.
And quite frankly, I just don't think about it.
Why are we having
I
any
wash
of
my
this
face, or I
conversation?
like see, did I get all my mascara? Oh, they're still on there. Oh, I got to put a pimple patch there. That's what
Well,
I'm doing. I'm not really like reading into it.
I'm basically asking, like, do you have evidence, Matt, that we are each three individuals?
I think I have lots of evidence for it, but I can't demonstrate it because there's no solution to the problem of hard solipsism. I cannot prove that you're not just some fiction being fed into my brain.
Can you prove that I am?
That you am what?
Like you just said, you can't prove that I'm not what you
Correct.
just said. Like,
I also cannot prove that you are a fiction being fed into my brain. Have you never spent any time looking into hard solipsism?
I know what solipsism is.
Okay.
But I'm asking you if you are saying that you have hard proof that you are an individual, or if you are saying that you neither have proof nor do not have proof that you are an individual.
I have proof that you exist because I wouldn't bore myself this much. What is the point?
I'm asking you, so based on your belief that you are an individual, I'm asking you if you have evidence for that and how you can tell anybody else what they believe, they don't have evidence for it. If you just said that you can't prove that you're an individual.
I'm sorry. I don't know what you think that I'm saying. I have no idea what evidence somebody else has. I ask them to present their evidence, and they either succeed in presenting evidence or they don't succeed in presenting evidence. What is the point you'd like to get to? Because I don't see a solution to the problem of hard solipsism, but I think I have a reasonable inference supported by the best evidence available that unfortunately you and I share a reality.
Okay, so you think that something that can be seen in the mirror, it can actively, presently be actually doing the present tense verbing tense of the term seeing?
No.
Okay, then I think you're acknowledging reality then.
No, I don't think the reflection is seeing anything. You phrased that so poorly that you were making it seem as if I was going to acknowledge that the reflection of me can see me. And no, I don't think it can.
Okay, yes, then we are in agreement. That's what I'm asking you. If you believe,
What the fuck is your point, Chase? I'm so sick of this. What is your point?
That evidence right there contradicts your belief that you are an individual, or that
it doesn't.
Three individuals exist.
No, it doesn't. What evidence do you think? Well, stop talking. Let me ask the question. What evidence do you think I just presented that contradicts my belief that I'm an individual?
Okay, because when you talk about yourself as an individual, right, you're talking about what you're seeing in the mirror, what you can't see in the mirror, what's inside your body. You believe that there's a limit or a border dividing you compared to somebody else in front of you.
No, that's not at all what that means. When I say that when I look in the mirror, I can't see my internal organs, that's a limit of physics. If I were to slice my stomach and chest open, I would be able to see my internal organs in the mirror. I'm talking about what is merely being reflected and how light fucking works. It has nothing to do with identity.
Okay, so last question. Do you believe that there is a border or a line, a dividing line that you can point to as like irrefutable proof that you exist?
Chase, I don't think there's irrefutable proof of anything. I don't think there's absolute certainty of anything. Do you have anything that is not absolutely banal and mind-numbing? Do you have some fucking point to get to?
Dude, when have I ever insulted you this entire call? You're fucking insane. Peace out.
Oh.
Weirdo.
Weirdo. I'm the weirdo.
That was, speaking of weirdo, that was a weird call.
I don't know how mirrors work. I have looked into solipsism, and I'm going to assume that you contradicted your claim that you're an individual. At no point did I claim, oh, do you have an absolute line of hard evidence? No, I literally said, I have no way to demonstrate that you're not a fiction. I don't think you are. I think I have some good evidence for it. But Chase, you're too uninformed and ill-informed and too bong rip enthused by the epiphany that you think you're having, that you can't see how you're boring everybody who understands this stuff to absolute tears, to like where we want to bang our head on the table. Because I don't know of any solution to the problem of hard solipsism. How do I prove that there's an external reality at all? How do I prove I'm not a brain in a vat? I can't. But I don't see any reason to think I am. And I think if I were to presume that I am, the available evidence suggests that that would be a really bad idea. Similarly, what it means is that either there's someone in control of an external reality that is feeding me all this information, or I am legitimately the only thing that exists, and I am now the most annoying caller that makes that somehow manages to consistently misunderstand the basics, and who, when you repeatedly ask them if you've got a point, think that you're the weird one. I'm sorry. It's a call-in show. It's a call-in show where people are supposed to be calling in to defend their beliefs. But it's not really a call-in show for someone who has failed Philosophy 101 to come in and ask whether or not Promise and I think that when we look into the mirror, there's an us there that is looking back, that can see. I'm sorry that it was so confused, Chase, that your only way out when being pressed to finally get to the point was to just say I was weird and then run away.
Yeah, I feel like it would have gone better, or maybe we just would have been like, yeah, this is not the show for this. If the call was started with, hey, so here's like an assertion I'd like to make. I think this. And then you could have been like, well, sorry, I think this, so this isn't going to be a debate. And then we could have moved on. But instead it was like, it's what Christian callers do, where we get dragged down this like attempted gotcha questions instead of just getting to the point. And it's, I don't know. It's, to me, it feels the exact same. That could have been.
No, I think you're dead on. I think Chase
Atheist,
is.
so.
I think Chase is someone who, while sitting around, thinks he came up with a gotcha, some fundamental flaw in my or your or somebody's atheistic worldview. Like, oh, but you don't know that for sure that you're even real or whatever. Yeah, as if any God that someone believes in has any hope of solving that dilemma. There are plenty of little potential positions philosophically that may not have a robust justification. And we do have to take some things axiomatically, like I can't prove that reality is real, but I'm going to act like it is so that I don't get hit by a bus just in case it is real. This is, welcome to your first day on Philosophy Earth. Sorry you ran up against the weird guy that's, that predicted you were going to solipsism very early. But
oh man,
here we go. Okay. Speaking of some definitions, John in Texas, pronouns are him. John's an agnostic who wants to explain why he's agnostic and not atheist. Something had to create the universe. Right. Oh. How do you know that's true, John?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm calling. So I grew up believing in God. Then I had doubts. Then I was atheist. But then I just leave us like a 0.1% chance there could be something, because
I'm sorry.
The only
John,
thing I can't.
John, do you think an atheist is someone who's absolutely certain that there are no gods and who denies any possibility that there could be a God?
No, I think, atheist, when I was atheist, I just basically said, no, I don't believe. I was like,
I'm not asking. So,
no proof of God.
John,
no.
I don't believe there's a God. That's it. That's why I'm an atheist. Do you believe there's a God?
Right. I don't think there is, but
There you go. You're an atheist.
Okay. But, okay. All right. So let me ask you this. When the universe was created, how can something
where's the evidence? Where's the evidence that the universe was created?
Well, all these scientists, they talk about the Big Bang and how there's this mass, then the energy, then it just exploded, and then the universe exploded. So, but we had to get here somehow. So we don't.
Okay, that's not an answer to anything. That's not an answer to anything I asked. You said the universe was created. Science does not make that claim. Where's the evidence that the universe was created?
Well, science makes a claim about the Big Bang, right? The
Big Bang is a mathematical cosmological description of the expansion of the universe. It does not in any way claim that the universe was created.
Okay. But let me ask you this. What do you have any idea how all of us got here, how the universe, how the moon, the earth, the solar system, all that stuff? Do you have any idea how that got here?
Yes.
What would you say that is?
Well, the current best scientific descriptions show that the planets in most solar systems, and probably ours, form gravitationally from the remnants of the accretion disk of the formation of the sun. And whether or not our moon was something that was formed from that or was some other stellar body that was captured, I personally don't know because I don't spend much time looking into
Right,
that.
and that
I'm
that's
sorry. I'm sorry. You asked me a question. I was giving you the answer, and
Okay.
that is, while we don't have a full explanation for the origin of absolutely every bit of change that's occurred, specifically, you asked if I had any idea, and so the answer is yes. I have some ideas, but we haven't solved all the questions. And at no point does Big Bang cosmology claim that the universe was created. So where's your evidence the universe was created?
Well, I'm just going by what the history and like the scientists and things
No.
up about the Big Bang.
I'm sorry.
But-
I'm sorry. I'm never, ever, 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 ever going to let you misrepresent science, John. You're not going on science. Science does not make any sort of claim that the universe was created. Science is based on methodological naturalism, does not make claims about the supernatural at all. So where is the evidence?
Like what's the name?
Where is the evidence
Like
that the
Neil-
universe was? Where is your evidence that the universe was created?
Okay, let me just ask this. I don't have.
No, let
that
me get an answer,
actual-
John. Let me get an answer to the question I've now asked you 4 or 5 times while I've repeatedly answered your questions. Where is the evidence for your claim that the universe was created?
I don't have that evidence. That's the crux of the
Okay,
situation.
so why do you believe something without evidence?
Well, no, that's the crux. That's why I'm calling, because we're here on Earth, right? There's other planets.
Why do you believe something without evidence, John?
Well, I believe there's planets because there are planets. I can see the planets. There's a sun.
I'm sorry.
You can see
Why
a
do you
sun.
believe something without evidence? I didn't mention planets in my question at all. You're advocating for a position, and you are advocating for a position. And when asked for the evidence, you acknowledge you don't have evidence. If I don't have evidence for a position, if I don't have evidence for a position, I don't assert that position. Why are you advocating for a position that you do not have evidence for?
No, you're misconstruing kind of what
I'm not misconstruing. John, you claimed the Earth was that you claimed the universe was created, correct?
Correct.
And then I asked you what your evidence was, and you said you didn't have any, correct?
And that, yeah, right, and that's why.
Correct. I'm sorry. When I asked you what your evidence was, and you said you didn't have any, correct?
Correct. That's correct.
When I say that you are advocating for a position for which you do not have evidence, I'm accurately reflecting what you said, and I'm not misconstruing a fucking thing, am I, John?
Correct. So, but
then why did you accuse me of Then why did you accuse me of misconstruing what I clearly did not fucking misconstrue, you liar?
You're trying to lead this to something where I'm not trying.
No, John. Why did you accuse me of misconstruing something that I didn't fucking misconstrue?
I didn't, but you're trying to.
You're a fucking liar, John. Rewind the tape. You accused me of misconstruing this.
But you're taking this somewhere where I'm not even.
You're a fucking liar, John. You know what I'm going to do, John? John, I'm going to save you from public embarrassment. I'm going to stop talking to you now because I fucking hate liars and I hate people who argue dishonestly.
Okay,
and I hate people who accuse me.
You're not letting me get to my point.
You're a fucking liar. I did not.
John, I'll talk to you next.
Hang on. I'm going to let you talk to Promise and see how she deals with a fucking lying piece of shit who just accused me of not letting him get to his point when I repeatedly asked you for your point and I answered your fucking questions and then you accused me of fucking misconstruing something I didn't. You're a liar, John. But Promise may do better with you than I do because I fucking hate you.
I'm sure she will, John, because you sound like a lunatic.
John, I don't. Yeah. Part of me hearing this, I feel like there might be a communication issue happening on both sides. I don't know. Maybe not at all. Maybe I'm the one confused. So I want. So John, I'm in the middle of speaking. So just let me get to my point, please. So I would like to ask you, do you know what created means? Because created implies a creator. And I'm wondering if you don't understand that that's what you're saying over and over again. Because like, I wouldn't say the universe was created. I would say that it came to be, or I would use some other term, because I don't think there is a creator. Do you know the difference between those? Or are you maybe just using the word created and that's not what you mean?
Well, maybe I'm just saying how the universe is there. So if you're saying I'm saying it created and it shouldn't be created, we can go by your verbiage.
So let me ask it this way. Do you think that the universe has a creator? Do you believe that the universe has a creator that created it?
Okay, thank you. That's my main question. So that's why I have this small percentage, because I can't get to for everything I know, something has to come from something else. Like something can't come from nothing, right? That's how I've always felt. So we're here on this planet. There's the sun, there's the universe, there's solar system, there's other planets, other galaxies. How did that get here? Because however way you may think, it's here. So how did something get created?
Okay, let me see if I'm
point.
catching what's going on here. Because I think you're coming off like you're trying to argue a point, and now I think I'm realizing I don't think you're arguing a point. I think you're confused. Is that true? Is that you trying to say, like, I don't understand, I don't know where this all came from, so therefore I feel like I have to remain not an atheist? Is that what's this conversation is about?
Exactly. Because I'm not arguing.
Okay.
Like with your co-host, I like your co-host. I like what he's saying. I
love Matt.
Okay.
So, and I think that there was some things said that if I were the one talking to you, I also would have thought you were being argumentative, because when you're in the conversation, in the flow of conversation, it goes very differently. The only thing is I'm sitting here being lazy, doing nothing, and I happen to catch the created word, and I've talked to somebody very recently who used the word created when they didn't mean it. So I think it went down an argumentative path that apparently neither of that wasn't what was happening. I don't know. Anyways, let's get to that topic. So would you say that it's fair to say you're calling in to ask us, how do you get over the fact that you don't understand where the universe came from?
That's exactly my point. Yes, correct.
Okay, I don't know where the universe came from. I don't know what happened before the Big Bang. And I'm content to leave it there. There are people like Matt and Forrest who can give you a way better answer, and I think give you some of the not speculations, I don't know what you would call it. Hopefully Matt will help me out in a second. But for me, I still definitely don't believe there's a God. But I have no idea what may have, been the first cause, or what the origins and all of that are.
Right, and that's why I leave like a 0.1% chance, because if something was somehow formed or whatever, the universe, and how can something be formed out of, I don't know, just out of sin or whatever? Because it's starting from zero. That's the only thing I can't fathom.
Personally, I don't think there. To me, it seems like there probably wasn't ever nothing. Because once we start defining nothing, then it is something. And I think that we just haven't figured all of that out yet.
Right, because I like your Instagram videos and things like that. I just discovered you today and all that stuff. So yeah, so you make a lot of sense. Your co-host makes a lot of sense too. But
he's who I learned from. So, so if I'm making any kind of sense, it's because I've had some really good teachers. And that's the thing. I started from a position where I had no idea, but I had to sit back and be honest and just say, well, I don't know. And then I had to go one step further and be honest and say, and I don't believe. So I actually, crazy enough, I stopped believing in a God before I was willing to be like, oh, maybe evolution is true, because I had been so indoctrinated against it. And yet I was still able to let go of my God belief because I was being honest. Because to me, those two things don't have to stay intertwined. I either believe that there's a God or there isn't. And the other things about the universe are other issues.
Right. Yeah. And that's a bit like when you're agnostic, you're basically saying, I'm not saying there is, or I'm not saying there isn't. It's just like there's no proof, kind of either way. But I'm like
Agnostic is not some
99.9%
middle
like
ground.
atheist.
Agnostic is not some middle ground between theist and atheist. You don't even know what agnostic means.
Okay, can you tell me?
Yes. In the same way that knowledge is a subset of belief, Gnostic and agnostic are subsets of positions. And so the positive position of there is a God, a belief, you can be convinced that you know that there is a God, in which case you would be a Gnostic theist. Or you can say, I believe in a God, but I don't necessarily believe that I know that there's a God, which means you would be an agnostic theist. The notion that there is a middle ground between being convinced that there is a God and not being convinced is a logical fallacy. There is no middle ground between I am convinced of X and I am not convinced of X. Those are direct logical negations. There is a difference between, there is a middle position between I am convinced X is true and I am convinced X is false. And this is why at the beginning, when you said you're not an atheist because you originally left 0.2%, but you've since changed that to 0.1% because I'm anal and take notes on stuff. I have no idea at what percentage I leave for a possibility that a God exists, because nobody's ever demonstrated that anything supernatural is possible, let alone plausible. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. Right. I don't have to believe that it's impossible. And as an atheist, I remain unconvinced that a God exists, but that doesn't mean that I'm convinced that no gods exist, although I seem to be largely convinced that no gods exist as far as the ones I'm able to be presented with. There is no middle ground between I believe it's Tuesday and I don't believe it's Tuesday. Agnostic addresses knowledge. Theism and atheism address belief. Knowledge is a subset of belief.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, I just, I've always, I don't know, I just always had this, always liked it with the universe and all that stuff. It just always made it difficult where it's like, well.
But you don't know.
Like
so it's,
yeah.
When somebody asks me, Matt, what's your explanation for why there's something rather than nothing? My answer is, I don't know. I don't even know how there could be a nothing. Science doesn't propose there is or was a nothing. It would be absurd to say that there was a nothing that something could act on. It's one of the most obvious problems with the various God models is that some of them have a God acting on a nothing. And you even said it a little earlier, you're like, something can't come from nothing. Nobody's proposing that something came from nothing except for the theists who are proposing that their God can make something come from nothing but itself. Science doesn't claim that something came from nothing. Science doesn't claim that nothing in its true sense is possible. The closest it gets is a mathematical nothing where the values cancel themselves out. But you don't seem to be well versed in what science has to say at all about Big Bang cosmology, about the formation of stars and planets or any of that. And so you just look at it all as a big mystery. And so for me, when somebody says, how did the universe come to be? My answer is, I don't know. But your answer should definitely be, I don't know, because you don't even know as much about it as the people who studied it for years. I'd recommend tuning into something like Skeptalk on Monday night. Fuck yourself, Garland. Anyway, sorry, I got distracted by somebody in chat saying religion must have really hurt me. No, it didn't. I never had a bad experience, not once. I do not suffer from religious trauma. You know what I suffer trauma from? Stupidity and lies. And in the case where John, in his confusion, desperate to try to make something clear, isn't being precise. And then when I walked John to the precision of you said this and you said this, and those things are in conflict, John falsely accused me of misconstruing it because he wanted to talk about something that wasn't what he actually said. And Promise got there, so grats.
Right, but yeah, it was just about the universe thing. That's but yeah, I basically agree with what you both say. Like and like in your thoughts on all this. It just I don't really think there's a God or anything like that. I don't, but I don't know. I always kind of just left a small chance because of an unanswered question. So that's why I'm like, I don't know. So.
I would say don't leave a small chance or a big chance. Just be open to whatever is true. So for me, I'm an atheist, but if I ever have reason to believe that a God exists, I would like to believe that because I want to believe true things. And I don't have to, like leave a little bit of space. I don't have to leave a little bit of space for all kinds of beliefs of mine that could change over time because I just have to stay consistent as a person who values truth. That's all I have to do. So I would advise you to look at it more that way. And it sounds like you're off to a cool place with it and just trying to learn more. And I would encourage you to do that. I think you'd really like Matt said, listening to some of them or like the Skeptalk hosts and stuff too, who talk about all of this. And, maybe call in with some of your questions that specifically relate to the universe, and see what they have to say.
Got it. I appreciate both of you answering.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Thanks for calling.
Good luck.
All right. Bye.
Keep asking the questions. Yeah. So John's an unusual case because he's calling to say, oh, here's why I'm agnostic and not an atheist. And right off the bat, the second I hear that, I'm like, oh, clearly the person doesn't,
Right.
know the terminology or has missed something. And so then when it was like, oh, well, the universe was created, something can't come from nothing. I'm like, what am I? This is all like the most basic thing. And yet somehow I misconstrued it. But all it really was kind of what I said at the beginning when I asked him, John, do you think atheist is someone who absolutely rules out any possibility that there's ever a God? And I'm not convinced that we got an answer for that, but it's clear that he stuck with that the whole time because he's like, I leave a 0.2%, I leave a 0.1%, which now you're just making up numbers and throwing them around. I don't, don't even try to say I haven't ruled it out, and that's fine.
Yeah, I have a feeling that it's somebody that probably hasn't maybe ever listened to the show before because I know I posted this, and so sometimes we get new callers, and I wonder if they, it's why we have to have like a something formed at the beginning of the call. Is it a question? Are you making an assertion? And oftentimes we have somebody that I don't think they even know what they're coming to us with. But my laziness of just sitting here not doing anything paid off because I was like, my weird OCD is picking up something with the word created not being used exactly right, and that's going to bother me, and now I have to find out. So anyways, I thought we had a theist caller, but maybe no. Oh, I thought we had... I see what I thought. It's because Lucifer is calling us.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see how that goes. Lucifer, pronouns she, they, from Arizona, wants to ask us about, experience with music and religion. Hey, Lucifer.
Yes.
What did you want to know?
Yes. Hi. Hello.
Hey.
I had the question of, have either of you had like intense feel good experiences with music while you were in the religion that you haven't had or have not been able to replicate since leaving the religion? I know Matt used to be a theist. I actually apologize, promise. I don't know if you used to be a theist or not.
No, it's okay. I'm your girl to talk to right now because actually I was a worship leader. I was responsible for creating those moments. I was a worship leader. I don't know if you've heard of Bethel Music. They're like one of the big worship people now, and they were known for their worship services that brought about these really intense things. And I would say, yeah, some of those services I had what I at the time would have called encounters that now I would call experiences that have not been replicated. I have also had experiences at non-Christian concerts where I had experiences that could never be and never were replicated in worship services. So they were just different.
Okay. My main question, or the reason for that question was I used to be a Christian and I left, and I haven't been able to figure out why it's so hard to replicate some of those feelings. I guess an excellent question for someone who used to run worship services would be, do you know why it's so hard to replicate some of those experiences, at least the same kind of intensity?
Yeah, I mean, without knowing exactly what sort of church you were in and what sort of service, I can give you some of the general stuff and just my opinion on why that would be. So we are trained as worship pastors to, they use all kinds of language for it. So we're supposed to be sensitive to what the Holy Spirit is doing in the room. We're called to, you know, pay attention to what he wants us to do and all that. And that means, like, if somebody starts crying in the back of the room, to be sensitive to that. And being sensitive to that means sometimes we drop the music down low and then a bunch of people start crying. Or if we see somebody starting to dance because the drums are building, then we're like, let's keep building the drums for a while. We're going to repeat this part of the song. And with worship songs, they're so repetitive, more so than any other kind of songs that you're going to go to. Like, maybe a Taylor Swift concert has similarly repetitive, but still not as much. So you're in an environment with a bunch of people where you all at least believe that you believe pretty much exactly the same thing. You are gathered for what you believe is one of the most important reasons, or what you believe is the most important reason anybody could ever be gathered together. So you're already primed to experience something really intense. And then you are chanting and basically putting yourself into this, like, kind of trance-like state. I mean, they can even measure this when they look at people that are in worship services and practicing meditation and all of that. It's very similar. So you have all of these elements coming together that are designed to make you feel this way. And then you're also carrying the weight of whatever you were believing at the time about this God and whatever you had gone through that week or been going and what you needed. And you have all these things in your head in a way that I don't think most people have in their head when they're going to, like, a U2 concert. Although I hear from some of my friends that they have, and they certainly act like they are having these sort of spiritual encounters at a regular concert, to where they're like weeping and shaking and all of this stuff. And they say nothing can make them feel like that. So for me, it makes sense that I felt that way because I was primed to feel that way. I wanted to feel that way. Deep down, I believed that it was I believed it was the God of the universe encountering me. So of course it felt larger than life. The other thing is, this is my memory of that moment. We can't actually measure if I was feeling more then than I feel when I go to my favorite musician now to that concert. That is my perception of that event. So that's my other thing there. Sorry, that was like a rant. I don't know if any of that helped.
No, that's okay. That actually helps out a lot. I had considered the idea that the memory could be faulty of the experience, and you just remember it being more intense than it actually was, or, I did not think that.
Yeah, and I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
Please go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay. Do you think that there's, like, any point in trying to pursue that type of experience again in non-theistic music, or just music in general, I guess? Or do you think it's too much, there's too much baggage assigned with trying to chase an experience you've had in the past?
I think if it's something you liked the experience of, this collective effervescence, then of course, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to feel that again. Do I think that chasing it is necessarily going to bring it about? I don't know. But I think it's a totally natural and normal thing to want to feel again. I do think, reading more about these sort of experiences and what creates them would probably be interesting to you. I think that there's a chance you could be let down because nothing ever lives up to that moment. Yeah, just like all kinds of other things. I mean, even now, while we're on the topic of music, there have been singers that I'm obsessed with, love, grew up going to their concerts, best concert of my life. And I'm so excited because I'm taking my new friend to go see them after I've been hyping them up and talking about how amazing they are. And then the concert's just kind of like, eh. And I'm like, where is that feeling I thought I was going to have? And who knows? Who knows what it was? What kind of brain chemistry? Maybe the crowd just wasn't right. Maybe I never actually really felt that way. It was just that time in my life as a teenager going with my friends, and now I'm an adult and it just doesn't quite hit the same. So I think there's so many things. Since I don't know the exact circumstance, do I think that you'll ever feel that feeling again? I have no idea. Do I think it's wrong that you want to? No. Do I think that it's possible you could? Sure. Sorry, that might not be helpful.
I had lots of experiences in church with like standard hymns and communal singing. That's a particular environment, and at the right times and when the right song hits and people are praising, you would feel the elation and goosebumps, and of course I was told that was the Holy Spirit, and I just bought into it. And then at certain special things, like I remember, I always reference the same ones. So Petra, being a Christian rock band, one of the earliest, along with Carmen, who produced these kind of theatrical shows, very moved by their music as well. The thing is, part of this, I guess, took place after I had open heart surgery 4.5 years ago. I'm more emotionally moved by music now than I was in the church. And don't get me wrong, I was, moved and believed and all that stuff, but now it's about the actual elements of the music. It is, I think a good chunk of it is making sure that your brain attaches some meaning or significance to it. So if you're standing there praying and you're having a particularly difficult time, and you are just overwhelmed with the notion that there's a God who loves you, that is going to come down and present you with some tiny fraction of its presence, where even like a single drop, if you could calculate it as a drop, is just emotionally overwhelming. Once, for me, intricate harmonies, interesting melodies, the curiosities. I watch a great deal of music theory stuff, even though I have no expertise there. I watch quite a few of the auditions for the various reality shows. I don't tend to watch the shows, but here's clips from The Voice, and here's clips from The Voice UK or wherever else. And then then I have a handful of my favorite artists who I just absolutely, I'm like Chappell Roan's biggest fan. But if there's something that is the thing that gets me now emotionally, is this brilliance and triumph of humans to construct something that is emotionally overwhelming. And I don't care if it's, songs from K-pop Demon Hunters, songs from Redneck Radio, songs from Phantom of the Opera, or Book of Mormon. It doesn't matter. There's something in all of those that have an emotional appeal to me. So I don't need to chase it ever. I just turn on the stereo. I pick up a guitar. I don't play as well as I used to, and I never will, but I just love music. I love Promise's music. We have another friend whose music I've been promoting. She got a song called Monster. I think it's phenomenal. And I get goosebumps. I feel great. Music is the thing that probably touches and heals me more than almost anything, except for a really well-written emotional climax in a movie or a show that you've been waiting for. But yeah, I don't know that you got to chase it. I think you just got to realize it was never the religion that made you feel that way. And you can find, like, I've had similar experiences to the Holy Spirit with secular music, drugs, secular art. And if if whether I'm high or not, and whether I'm looking at secular art or listening to secular music or not, I can have those same types of experiences. That kind of tells me all I need to know about, Promise as a worship leader manipulating a crowd to feel what we're going to feel. I mean, it's not like religion invented the human experience.
Interesting. I've never actually heard that perspective before. Thank you. To make sure I'm understanding correctly, essentially attaching meaning to whatever you're listening to is a good way to gain an intense emotional experience of its own for whatever you're listening to.
I mean, I tend to listen to the things that I already, I don't listen to stuff I don't like. So I don't have to attach meaning to it. I like the songs that have the meaning that I'm looking for.
That makes a lot more sense.
But I can also do it from like the structure of music standpoint, Oh, here they changed to, Mixolydian or whatever, oh, there's 3 chord changes in this song. And just the fact that there's a chord change in a song is often enough to make me go, ooh, there's something. And that's one of the reasons why I'm a huge Sabrina Carpenter fan, because she's put chord changes in some of her more popular songs. And I just like that.
I like hearing key changes and using the same chord in different ways in a song to change how the song feels like it changed the meaning of a song, like going from fast to slow, but using the same chords. That's always fun.
Get some drama.
Mm-hmm. Well, and keep in mind that, the version of you that experienced this like really intense moment in worship, while you may have changed your mind since then, you still have all the things, I assume, that like all the senses that you had then that you would need to feel that again. So like, it's not like there was a God and now God is dead and now you can't feel that. It's just that you realize something that was already true at the time. And so you're fully you're able to have that same experience again. It's just a matter of if something, is able to bring that sort, hit you the way that moment hit you emotionally more than anything else.
Okay.
Is there anything?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask us, or anything else we can help you with?
No, that was about it, and I think that was very enlightening for me, and it gives me a lot to chew on and think about. That I really appreciate both of you taking the time to answer my questions.
Of course, this was a fun call. I like talking about it. Thanks so much for calling.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
You too.
Yeah, I see folks in chat are talking, mentioning Ren, and yeah, there's a lot of. I like. There's a young guy who does. I'm gonna butcher his name. I apologize, but he does fingerstyle guitar stuff, and he does his own custom versions of popular songs. His name's Kent Nakamura. I should look it up. But he's phenomenal and just does great versions of stuff, and so it's a lot of finger picking, and he'll use incredibly non-standard tunings in order to get the full effect of a song. I'll look it up, but more importantly, there's another blah, blah, blah. I'm speaking in tongues. I'm so
happening.
filled with the Holy Spirit. I'm gonna yell because I'm gonna shut up. There are other shows here on this network. Not only is there going to be a Sunday show after dark tonight, but there's Skeptalk on Mondays, Tuesdays Chewed Gum, Wednesdays my show The Hang Up, Thursday's the Transatlantic Call-In Show. And in between there's Cus I Wannas and Calling It Nows. And I believe that's what's going to happen at 4 o'clock. I believe we're going to shift over to a Calling It Now, right?
Yes, I think that's the plan.
Sweet. All right. Well, let's take another call because we've got Joel in Texas, pronouns are him, who's an agnostic who says God is a relevant psychosocial reality. Hey, Joel.
Hello. Hey, Matt. Hey, Promise. How are y'all?
Hey there. Good. How are you?
Hello.
I'm surviving. Yeah.
Hey, I'm well. I hope y'all are doing well. Yeah. So that's my position. And we can explore it. I welcome some pushback. But basically, the argument that I'm making is that regardless of whether or not you are a theist or an atheist, your view of God still informs your ethic and the way that you create meaning in life.
My view of which God informs
And
my
so
ethic.
Well, the view of God as it pertains to your culture. So, I mean, Matt, you were a former pastor. So, I mean, that's the basis of your view of the God that you reject, more or less. Then you can expand that to rejecting Zeus or
Joel?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't a pastor, and I don't just reject one God. I reject many of them, and I'm not aware that any of them have any sort of informing standard on my moral views.
Okay, right. So specifically, since we're in the United States, there would be the Christian God that informs our ethic culturally for the most part.
It doesn't. The Christian,
whether or not you accept that God.
Joel. I have my own view on morality, which I've lectured on for years, and the Christian God isn't remotely relevant to my morality.
Okay. Well,
as a matter of fact, I find the Christian God to be incredibly immoral.
Yeah, I do too. I don't.
How did you do that?
Argument.
How did you do that? Aren't you living in the United States? So you're saying that you and I are both the exceptions to your rule?
No, what I'm saying is that, okay, if we're going to reject the basis of the claim that the Christian God is a moral agent, the rejection of that claim still informs the way that we build our ethic.
No, it didn't.
Okay, why not?
Because I didn't build an ethic based on whether or not I rejected a God. I instead built ethics up from a foundation of simple axioms that we can then change as we discover which ones lead to a better world and which ones don't. The God of the Bible has a number of things in there attributed to it that I agree with, and a number of things that I don't. So it's absurd to say that I am beholden to that God for my morals when I happen to agree with that God's views or the views proposed by that God or to that God on some issues and reject it on other issues. And my criteria for what I accept and reject is not in any way tied to that God. So it seems that your entire premise has been debunked by me and evidently by you too.
Okay, tight. Yeah, I really appreciate it, Matt, because I don't have any training in formal logic, and so I'm trying to construct my worldview kind of in the same way that you described. And so that was kind of the purpose of my call, to kind of, test it up against the wall, because, and I mean this in the most endearing way, you can be kind of a hard ass when it comes to formal logic. And so I figured if it didn't stand up well against you, it would not stand up well in, a larger sense in terms of like constructing meaning. So cool, man.
Yeah, now there's
it's a bold way to test an idea. I would also throw out there, like, what if there was somebody who had never been exposed to the idea of a God and had never had a God belief? What then are their morals and ethics based on? You know what I mean? Like like their lack of ever having thought of a God or believed
Yeah.
in one. So
But you also,
Yeah, that's a good point too, Promise. Oh yeah, go ahead, Matt.
you also said that my meaning and purpose for life were evidently tied to this God. And I'm going to call bullshit on that as well, because first of all, I think that life has no intrinsic meaning or purpose, and that any externally imposed meaning or purpose on my life, I can ignore and dismiss, because I don't give a fuck what somebody else thinks the purpose of my life should be. And I don't care if that person is my partner or Promise or Jimmy or you or God himself or herself or themselves. And so not only is
Right.
my meaning and purpose in life not informed by the God that I grew up with or the gods that I'm surrounded by, but that's one area where I'm baffled, because people are like, oh, where do you get meaning and purpose in life without a God? And I'm like, why would a God be the supplier of meaning and purpose in your life? If the government told you what your job was going to be, what your role in the world was going to be, and who you were going to marry, you would revolt against that sort of externally imposed guidance and instruction for the meaning and purpose of your life. I don't know why anybody would think it was a good thing because it's coming from a God, except that I suspect that somehow deep down they all know that the gods are bullshit, and this is just a placeholder for saying, you know, I really don't know what my meaning or purpose is or why, so I'll just go with that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with coping with despair and anxiety. In a large sense, I'm agnostic in the sense that, I don't claim to have any knowledge about God. So then I wanted to kind of try to clarify a bit, and maybe the issue is with my language. It's that the rejection of God or of the God concept, helps you to inform the way that you still construct meaning in your life apart from any kind of like metaphysical, uh, I don't know, substrate of commands or whatever.
Yeah, I I don't know.
I think that then
Go
we're
ahead.
getting to the point where it's like, I mean, yes, everything that we think about the world impacts how we view the world. So then to me, it's just not that interesting. Because, like I said, what about the person who's never been exposed to a God belief and doesn't have one themselves? Because then
Not
they're
in
not
general.
being influenced by it. Yeah. So I think at that point, then we're just saying what you think about the world impacts how you build your life. And that's true. But that's to me, and unless I'm missing something, just kind of like, okay, now what?
Okay. Yeah, for sure. The other kind of aspect of it, because again, I myself am trying to construct a system of meaning, and so the other part of it is kind of the cognitive side, where a lot of the way that whenever we talk about God or when people have religious experiences, different parts of the brain are activated, like the theory of mind thing when people are trying to understand God's intentions or whatever. And so, cognitively, I think the way that we think about God is important in the way that we navigate life. So, in the rejection of a God or in the acceptance of a God, how do you think that? Nah, I guess I haven't thought my question well out enough. Matt, Promise, I really appreciate y'all's time. Thank you for letting me kind of throw my mind out there and test it a little bit in the waters. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I think you guys are great. And I hope y'all have a wonderful Sunday.
Thanks so much, Joel. You too.
Thanks, Joel. Yeah, it's the short version was God is a relevant psychosocial reality. And when I see the words psychosocial reality, that to me is just it's a mix of thought and behavior, but it is real that people do this. It's not real that the God is a reality, but so it's undeniable that the various God concepts have at a minimum influenced societies and been either, I don't know, perhaps beneficial in some cases or a social contagion in other cases. But there's this notion that, oh, you were a Southern Baptist and you rejected that God, and that's informed all of your positions on everything. No. I found my way out of that because I was trying to find justification for anything. Like, my Bible says that murder is wrong. Is it? Yeah. Why? Because God said so. Well, that's kind of a weak justification. I mean, does that mean that if God says it's not wrong, it becomes not wrong? And so what's my take on slavery? Because I would have thought that slavery is wrong, but the Bible's okay with it. Legislates it, tells you who to enslave, how to enslave them, that you can beat them as long as they don't die within a couple of days, where to buy them. And I'm like, okay, I need a way to make this make sense. So how can we then look at morality? It was ultimately looking for an understanding of morality, of meaning and purpose, of answering questions. I mean, somebody called earlier to talk about, can religion and science coexist? And my answer is it depends a little on the religion, but almost certainly not, because most of the religions are making claims about reality. And if reality isn't consistent with those claims, if there isn't evidence to support them, and it's not something that science can investigate, then at a minimum, you are either talking about something that is no more testable than your imagination, and maybe less testable than your imagination, or something that, when tested, consistently fails to demonstrate any actual, like there's no there sort of thing. And I don't know. Somebody in chat was like, I'm evidently massively wrong. And they seem to be confusing the fact that religions have influenced society with, therefore, Matt's positions are because of God X or God Y. No. Unlike a lot of other people, I didn't shift from one top-down structure to another. I just moved on to reality. And so my positions aren't tied to whether or not a church or religion or a being or a person thought them. Mine are my own and informed by the evidence that supports them. Religions aren't wrong about everything. And not every attribute or position attributed to a God is A, original to that God, B, necessarily tied to that God, and C, wrong. There can be true things that are attributed to a God that we should hang on to, and you don't give the fucking God or the story about that God credit. It didn't take a God or somebody's thoughts about a God to let us know that it was wrong to slaughter people. Anyway, we got a fun call. Brian, pronouns are he, him, calling from Massachusetts. Brian's an agnostic that's been involved with ritual magic and the occult, so he can't discount the so-called spiritual realm. Well, Brian, what evidence do you have that there is a spiritual realm?
Well, first I want to thank you guys for taking my call, and I've been a fan of yours for a while. I'm not saying that to suck up, but basically 9 times out of 10, I would agree with you guys, especially when it comes to mainstream religions, like just their dogma. I mean, the most obvious example is punishing gay people. I mean, that's just one example, but I'm
sorry, Brian, what evidence do you have for the spiritual realm?
Yes, I know. Basically, I don't know if you're aware of what sigil magic is. Basically, it's called chaos magic, and you can all research this on your own time. So basically, you write down a desire you have, and then you take out the vowels. And I learned later from I guess she was a Jewish witch, and basically, like the old Hebrew alphabet did not have vowels. And I don't have video evidence of this, obviously, but
I didn't ask you for video evidence. I asked you for evidence. So I'm aware that there are all kinds of things get called magic, and there are all sorts of nonsensical beliefs about being able to perform magic or have some sort of supernatural ability. I'm unaware of any evidence anywhere that anything supernatural is real.
But
I'm sorry, I'm still talking. I'm sorry, I'm still talking. But I'm unaware of any evidence anywhere that any such supernatural effect has ever been produced or confirmed to be supernatural. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, you never engage in it. That's the problem. So I was with the witch.
I'm sorry, Brian. Brian, I'm sorry. Are you suggesting that we can't have evidence for? Oh, Brian ran away. I hope the call just dropped.
That was fast.
Brian, call back. Because it sounded to me like you were saying, I don't have evidence because I've never tried it. And I've got news for you. I've never tried heroin, but I have lots of evidence about the effects of heroin. There are plenty of things I've never tried, and yet I have mountains of evidence for them. I've never been to Ukraine, but I have really good evidence that it's there. I've never been fly fishing, but I've seen someone do it, and I understand the principles behind it a little bit. I've never been to the moon, but I believe that humans have been to the moon. So this notion that I'm not seeing evidence because I haven't tried it, I'm still hoping that your call just accidentally dropped and you didn't cowardly run away after basically suggesting that I don't have evidence because I haven't tried it. How do you know what I've tried? How do you know which areas of the occult I've looked into? How do you know? I mean, you come in explaining, oh, this is sigil magic, and you got to write down what you want and remove the vowels because I was told by an old Jewish witch that, Hebrew didn't have vowels. Yeah, this is mystical Kabbalah stuff. There's tons of things like this. And at no point has anyone been able to demonstrate an actual effect or confirm that the effect they haven't been able to demonstrate is supernatural in its origin. And so you can keep cosplaying as a magic user, but that's all it'll be until you actually present evidence for it. Go ahead, put a hex on me. Cast your spells. Send your demons out. Oh, it doesn't work that way. It's only good stuff. We're only going to do. It's amazing. It's amazing how nobody's ever able to produce evidence for these magical, witchcrafty. Oh, I agree with you on all the other religions, but the magic that I do on the weekends, please. This ain't my first rodeo. I literally have entire bookshelves covering the occult, witchcraft, magic, Kabbalah, all sorts of things. Books full of runes.
I've got some tarot decks sitting right here.
I was looking around because I usually have a tarot deck up here because I do a magic trick for my stage show that uses a tarot deck. I just don't happen to have it right here. All I was asking was for evidence.
And I think what's frustrating, because you have callers like that who are like, I agree with 99% or 9 out of 10 things you say or whatever it is. And then I'm not saying this caller has, although they seemingly hung up, but a lot of times we'll get the pushback of like, wow, you were so harsh on me about this and I'm like on your side. But the problem is, it is the same sort of thinking where you don't care about what's true or not. that gets you believing that gets people believing the stuff that call in on the calls that are anti-LGBTQ, as this last caller pointed out. So that's our problem. When your standard is not truth, and instead your standard is, well, this feels good to me and I don't think it's bad. That is exactly what my Christian family is doing when they are justifying their positions that last caller would think are immoral. Well, it makes sense to me. It matches the God I believe in. Like, this is all, they'll make it seem like it's a little less emotional because they'll point to the Bible and stuff, but it is the exact same. It's dogma over actual reality. And that's the problem with that sort of thinking, literal magical thinking, is that it can lead you to thinking harmful and non-harmful things, and then justifying them with something that doesn't exist in reality. So that's my frustration. That's why I have to draw a hard line at things like magic and all of that. Sure, great. I love that generally I am on the same team with pagans and witches and all of that. That's not how I'm not talking about being friends with. I'm talking about what we advocate for, and where I have to say, like, I can't do anything but say that I don't think that that's an appropriate way to look at the world and an appropriate belief to hold.
I'd love to get I've heard this over and over again for 20 years. Oh, I agree with 90% of what you say. And I would like to get all the people who agree with 90% of what I say and put them all in a room so they can fight over the other 10%, because they don't all agree on the other 10%. Some of them, their 10% is, ooh, magic's real. Some of their 10% is, oh, it's okay to shit on trans folks. Some of their 10% is something related to, basic income or health insurance or whatever else. Cool. You guys all sort it out. And when you figure out what things you all agree that I'm wrong on, I'll address that. But if you're going to call in to say, oh, I cast spells, and I don't mean like in D&D, I mean in really real stuff, I cast spells, I'm going to ask you, what is your evidence for the supernatural? What is it you've done? What was the result? And how did you determine that magic happened? Oh, you write down what you want and you remove the vowels. Why does magic care about writing or vowels? I mean, before we had written language, wasn't there magic then? Or did magic only begin to exist when we created a language and removed the vowels? Is that like removing the foreskin? Like it was superfluous to put those vowels in at the beginning? Oh, yes, I'm sure that you're the one that's really for real casting spells, and the only reason you're not able to present evidence is because I just wasn't there to see it. Cool.
Yeah, it falls apart pretty quickly, unfortunately.
Waiting. It reminds me of the various pagans that are, oh, no, Thor and them are real, really real. And because I was saying, like, nobody believes in that shit anymore. And then as soon as I said it, they started coming out of the woodwork. I even had a friend, former friend, who went down that path. And anyway, I won't get into that. Who knows? We have Buzz calling from India. Buzz is an atheist, pronouns are him. How do you get to laws and punishment from a secular humanist position? Hey, Buzz, how are you?
Hey, Matt. Hey, Eve. How are you guys? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I called last time about some questions, and again with some questions. So I wasn't getting into morality questions often, but recently, like listening to you guys, I understand that secular humanism is something that I relate to, and I understand what things need to be valued, right? What positions are good positions, what positions are bad positions. But I still don't understand how do we go from there to how should we punish people that are wrong? How should we make our laws in such a way that people who do wrong things need to be handled, right? Like specifically, if I want to say capital punishment is a big thing, right? I don't know if that fits under secular humanist position.
So
Yeah.
there's no one right answer here. I'm a secular humanist, and when I first began to identify as a secular humanist, I wasn't opposed to capital punishment on principle. I was only opposed to it as a matter of practicality, in the sense that I was convinced there were things that one could do that would make one deserving of death. But I did not feel that the legal system and the human error were sufficient to justify that we had ever reached a strong conclusion on that. So I was opposed to capital punishment just because of I think it's too risky to kill people if there's a noticeable chance that you could actually be wrong. And I've since changed beyond that to where I think I'm now opposed to it on principle. And I also don't look at the justice system as punishment, but I recognize that in some sense is going to happen. So secular humanism doesn't make any claims or statements about what the laws ought to be, and it's not even specific about moral answers in a lot of circumstances. So you're going to get different responses from different secular humanists. And the principles that I value, in a sense, in addition to autonomy and justice and truth, are that rehabilitation and help when there is an opportunity to change someone's tendency towards bad behavior or problematic behavior, that should be preferable. And that taking precedent over that is the safety of the individuals in the community who are not the current problem. So if somebody is a constant, if Tiger Woods keeps rolling cars, then I think we should absolutely take away that guy's fucking driver's license, because he is not just putting himself at risk, he is putting others at risk. And by the way, I'll say the same thing about Kyle Kalinske, who I like, but he's been filming videos in his car where he's driving and talking and looking down and scrolling stuff on his phone. Kyle, knock it the fuck off. You're doing great stuff, man, but you're giving them an excuse to arrest you, and you're putting yourself and other people at risk. Just pull over or wait. I know it's a dog-eat-dog world and there's a rush, but please stop fucking doing that shit when you're driving. So I would take away both of those guys' driver's licenses, maybe just suspend Kyle's, because he hasn't, as far as I know, flipped as many cars as Tiger Woods has. But it's about making sure that we protect the safety of others and that we infringe and impose upon people's rights as little as possible. And so you start with warnings and you get more progressive. But that's me. There is not a secular humanist answer. I mean,
right.
Promise is going to have different answers on some of this than I will. Like, I doubt she wants to even suspend Kyle's license. I'm just
No,
kidding. I don't know.
that's actually a huge pet peeve of mine. And it's so embarrassing because a lot of my videos, I am in the car, but I'm passenger side and the thing is flipped. So people think I'm driving. I'm like, I promise I'm not. But no, I was just going to add in, I live in Finland, and they have one of the lowest imprisonment rates in all of Europe. And they're doing, I think, an excellent job. It's also definitely the safest place I have ever lived in my life. And their whole thing is about rehabilitation. They're also all about keeping the humanity of the person that's in the system. So even in prison, it's designed to still be like being in a house, being in a home. You wear regular clothes, you're having good meals, your humanity is not lost. And I think in the US, that is absolutely lost. I think the system over there is super messed up. And we see it playing out to where, once you wind up in jail, I can't remember chance of you being back, but it's super high, and then people end up staying in jail and in prison. So over here, I appreciate like they focus more on fines. I think most offenses over here are done through a fine, which is also still based on your income. And you're already living in a country that's providing you healthcare and making sure your basic needs are met. So even the fine is not infringing on those things. And yet they find that it still reduces crime. Like whatever they're doing is working here. So like Matt said, there's no like one answer. We're all going to have different thoughts and opinions, and I prefer experts to be the ones making these policies. I can just observe as somebody living here what I think is great and what to me is matching a lot of my humanist values.
Yeah, and I don't want to overlook empathy as a relevant factor, in the sense that I think mandatory minimums and anything else that takes the human element out of judgment are fairly problematic. Judges have discretion because two people can commit the same crime but not have the same future or the same likelihood of the same future. And judges aren't always going to get it right. Matter of fact, they're flatly going to get it wrong a lot. But as a humanist, the first thing I'm looking at is if we're going to say somebody's action is problematic because it made the world worse, then the first thing we have to ask ourselves is the reaction that we're going to take to that, whatever penalty or restriction we're going to impose on behalf of that, does that make the world better or worse? Because for a lot of things, incarceration, we know recidivism rates are high. We know that there is virtually no rehabilitation and instruction, that the prison system is one where in the United States we're imprisoning, I think, more of our citizens than anybody else on the planet, or very nearly. And it's almost become an easy shortcut. Like, oh, you did this? 60 days in the county lockup, that type of thing, because there's just too much to do and too many trials, and the courts are bogged down, and the police lack the sort of training that would help the actual justice system. They predominantly are in the incarceration system. And that is also something that I think needs to change. But I don't know enough. And I don't think I could design an entire system or that I'm going to be the one that's right. And so I'm wondering, well, you're looking into it now from the standpoint of a secular humanist or a likely secular humanist, but you're also looking at it from another, like a different country for me. What are you seeing that you're reacting to or concerned about that I might not know anything about?
Well, nothing specific to my country per se. But first of all, I would say that I understand, every person will have a different position. But yeah, okay. So I think that what is specific to my country will be a different question that I'll come to. Before that, can you answer this one thing that do you think crime should be looked at not just from the position of what the crime is, but also who is committing it? Do you think different people committing similar crimes should have same punishments or different punishments? I think Eve already answered that by saying that there is proportional fine based on your income and all. But what about other things like should women have different punishments for similar crimes? Should we already do it for minors, I guess. We have separate juvenile courts and uh, proceedings for them. But what about other minority groups? Right? You have in your countries different minority groups. We have different minority groups. And what I see in my country often is that people look at other countries and say, "Oh, look how they are treating this particular religious group or this particular social group, and we should also be more strict or more lenient towards them." Do you think that has any merit?
So I guess this gets to kind of what I was saying about mandatory minimums or anything that would take the human element out of it. I think each case needs to be evaluated given all of the circumstances. So it's entirely possible that someone might harm someone else in the same way that another person did, and yet the motivation, the justification, the reasoning behind it, the likelihood of recidivism, all of those are different. And so I don't necessarily know. I wouldn't say, oh, women should get different penalties than men, except in those cases where there's something specific to a gender that acts as extenuating circumstances or whatever else. And so it is a case by case basis where there can be exceptions and differences. I don't know that it would be any better to just categorize it and say, women are on a different standard here. I'd need to know what the justification is for that different standard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And then finally, this one thing. So one, like since you talked about specific to my country, we have been having discussions about something called a uniform civil code. So how currently things operate in India is that the civil matters are kind of handled based on what individual religious, like we have Muslim marriage law, we have Hindu marriage act, we have some special marriage acts, and so we even related to inheritance or divorce and other things. So we let people govern themselves, right? That's the point of it all, that we let people govern themselves based on their culture. But then that means that we are going to, at the end of the day, refer to their religious texts. I understand that minorities should not be like forced into the structure of the majority. So, but I also don't know if we should just let people refer to their religious texts when they want to resolve the civil matters. So, what do you think is a right thing?
I'm not sure that this notion of we shouldn't be forcing minorities to conform to the majority. It would depend very much on the criteria. We need to have a set of laws that apply to us all. But if you're talking about, hey, we let this group kind of regulate themselves and appeal to their religious structures and stuff to resolve this, things like divorce and whatever, I'm completely opposed to that. I'm opposed to it because I don't know what protections there are in there to make sure that the thing that they're appealing to is likely to be fair. So it's fine if somebody wants to wear a hijab or niqab, and that's their actual free choice. Cool. I'm enough for freedom that if that's what you want to do, go for it. But I'm also enough of a realist to recognize that I'm not convinced that's actually their choice. When you have something that is a religious requirement, I don't know how you could ever show that it's being done by choice. And similarly, there are corporations that in the United States and other places try to get you to agree to arbitration in the instance of some sort of disagreement, where instead of going to court and having the protection of the law, instead you have agreed to have an arbitrator come in and resolve it. I think those are almost always abusive of the worker and supportive of the organization. And it is their way of skirting the law and having to be held accountable and responsible to the law. So I am not in favor of special authorities governing things. But I am in favor of people's rights to believe and practice within the limits of the law, within the limits of the law we share.
Okay, yeah, that does make sense. I guess that's all. Thank you very much, Matt and Thomas. Yeah.
Thanks so
Anything
much,
you guys have
Buzz.
for me?
Well, I don't know that I have a follow-up question on that subject, but I would like to know, just because I haven't lived your life or been in your area. Where were you? So it sounds like you're just now kind of developing an interest in secular humanism. Were you tied to a particular religion at some point in the past?
Actually, no. I mean, in India, we don't have a way to legally have a atheist title. So yes, I was like my parents are. At least my mom practices religion. But we have a very secular view in our house. So no, I did not. I learned things. I read a bit, but I never really went to worship or anything. I this will be a little funny, but I learned a lot of my moral values from Batman. That's why I was also against capital punishment before I even understood what capital punishment was.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, Batman is my ideal in a way, a symbol of justice.
Okay, this actually is great context for what you were sharing. Like that makes even more sense because it gave you this like sense of justice and this idea that like there should be some kind of, some guy going around rescuing people and then, what is the word I'm looking for?
A great example right up to the point where he's not. And it's because it's very much a who watches the watcher situation. If you have a good, like Superman is ridiculous in the sense of too perfect across the board, and that's why I like the various Superman shows where Superman is more broken because it's easier to relate to that Superman. Batman is always has been relatable. I think I might prefer Spider-Man a little bit, but Batman gets an edge in the sense that he's got no powers, except that he's a billionaire, which makes him fundamentally immoral to begin with. But of all the billionaires I've read about, I think he's the one that's probably using his billions for more good. And that's funny. It's funny because we're able to sit here, despite the fact that Batman was, Detective Comics, and then went out and there's been a bunch of different versions of Batman, different actors, different characters, different storylines, everything else. And yet the three of us can sit here and evaluate the character generally, and we could compare specific versions of that, in the movies, are you going to prefer the the Pattinson version? Are you going to prefer the Christian Bale version? Are you going to, which one? And we can talk, we can analyze all these. It's so funny because as atheists, we sit here and there will be people who call in and be like, well, you clearly believe in God because you think God's evil. No, I'm describing a character. I think Ra's al Ghul is problematic, but not evil. I think your God is more evil than I would, and which version of Ra's al Ghul are we talking about? Because it's that's some interesting work on moral valuations, because it shows that there are people who think they're right and think they're doing good and want a better world, but they disagree on what that better world looks like and how best to get there and what's justified. Like, I don't think I could justify the actions that either Batman or Ra's al Ghul take at different times, despite the fact that I think both of them have noble motivations in some regard, and both of them are fucked up in another regard.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for the Batman talk, Buzz.
Yeah.
That was great. Thanks so much,
Thank
Buzz.
you, Matt. Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you. See you guys later. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.
That was fun.
We are out of calls and we only have a few minutes left on today's show. Although my screen just froze. I hear that you have a book with you that is soon to be released and available for like pre-order, I think.
I do.
Why don't you tell everybody about it?
I have my book here. It's trying to get blurred. It's already censoring itself.
It'll
It's
be
called
redacted next week.
Gospel of Lies. Yeah. And if you see down here, it's actually got my name and your name, because you did the foreword, which was the coolest thing. It was one of my favorite things about this book. But yes, it is available for pre-order. It comes out on May 26th. And for everybody asking, there will be audiobook and digital copy and all of that. That part won't come out till the actual book. And I got really cool news. It's already gotten the highest pre-orders that my publisher has ever seen. And Barnes & Noble just put in an order to get a bunch of the books, which is really cool because on the shelves, it will go in the religious section. So if somebody's there maybe looking for a new Bible, they might also see Gospel of Lies. And I hope that it makes them curious enough to like maybe just pick it up and look at it. And if they read Matt's foreword, then he did a really good job selling the rest of the book. So hopefully they would check it out. But yes, it's available.
Forward, schmorward. I'll tell you what, though. I'm literally at Amazon.com right now. And I just ordered some blue tongue skink and tegu food and some licorice. And I pre-ordered
Yay!
Gospel of Lies, as any of you can do over there. Let me tell you, I'm not going to ruin it. I'll just say, if you order it, you're lucky.
Oh, thanks. I really hope that it helps change some people's mind. And part of my thing with my publisher was it wasn't going to come out till much later. And I was like, is there a way we can work this out to come out before the midterms, to give people an opportunity? Not that I really talk about politics in the book at all, but if there's a chance of sparking, like, I know that these kinds of times in history are when people start changing their minds about things, about really big things. For me, 2016 was when I started going through my deconstruction. That was a big moment for me when Trump was being worshipped by people I looked up to morally. I was like, wait a second, I have to examine a lot of things, which led to me examining my religious beliefs. And so I know that that's starting to happen again. There's like waves of it that happen. And if I can offer anybody kind of like a hand to hold, not to tell people what to think, but to help encourage them to start thinking for themselves, that's what I hope the book will be. So if you order it for yourself and you're also like, how could I support the book more? Consider ordering it for somebody that you think might give it a chance.
See, the one I just ordered, I'm going to give that one to somebody a good chance, because Promise needs to autograph a copy for me.
Oh my gosh, you have to autograph one for me.
We'll sign one for each other, but
okay.
I want to be able to give some away, and I'm really looking forward to it. Anyway, Arden, our wonderful producer extraordinaire, what's coming up next, and what do people have to do?
Arden.
Yeah, so I just got a text that they're going to be a few minutes late, so we may have to vamp a little here, but we'll do what we can. Coming up next is going to be Calling It Now with Javon Bradley and Jimmy Snow. If you stick around in the chat, you'll get sent there automatically. And then later tonight, after that show, we will have, let me see.
I think they should rename
Boris
it.
Valkai and John Gleason. Huh?
Evidently, they should rename it from Calling It Now to Calling It in a Little Bit.
Calling it in a few seconds. Javon, I just got a text from Jimmy saying they were going to be late. I see he hasn't messaged you in the Discord, but yeah, no, they're he said
we're really professional over here, you guys.
Very professional. He said only a few minutes late. Anyway, go ahead.
No. I was like, let me go through the line schedule real quick. Today is the 29th of March. Tomorrow and Tuesday, I'm working. Tuesday's my birthday, but I'm also working. I've got stuff to do. And a good chunk of that is to finalize the videos that I put out on my personal YouTube channel. So you can look for my personal YouTube channel. In addition, I put out 4 videos every month on a number of different subjects, and we're going to be adding new live stuff. I'm waiting for a computer to come in. But we're not only going to be adding new live stuff to my channel, but I'm going to be doing a show, which I'm not going to tell you the name of yet, that is going to be a live show on my channel, and it is going to be about skepticism and epistemology, not just, hey, religion, politics, whatever. I have missed some of the foundational things of what is skepticism. You know, are you doing it right? Are you doing it wrong? Is there litmus tests? How do we go about determining how to test stuff? What is it that the JREF used to do? I find myself missing Randy. I find myself missing the $1 Million Challenge. I don't have $1 million. I'm not going to be restarting $1 Million Challenge. But I do know the guys who did it before. But I want to get into, all the various woo claims that can come up, and basically teaching skepticism, which is not debunking. It's nice.
Right.
It is great when you can get scientific experts. So, for example, tomorrow on Skeptalk, you're going to have Aaron Ra and Dr. Aaron Adair. And there's enough expertise there between two people to cover, I don't know, countless subjects in and around physics, the Bible, creationism versus evolution. I mean, they're going to be there to tell you what the science says and debunk. And what they're doing is modeling skepticism and the conclusions that people are going to reach when they're properly applying a burden of proof. But they're not so much teaching skepticism and the how and the why. Why is the skeptic epistemology the absolute best one on the planet ever, and nothing could ever be better? Okay, maybe that's not quite the case, but that's why I'm doing the show. Tuesday night on Chewed Gum, 6 p.m. Central. Alyssa and Taylor will be here. And if you had questions about how much damage religions that focus on purity, religions that address sexuality in ways that are perversions of the actual human condition, and issues related to women's rights, women's issues, and how religions have worked with the government to thwart that. It's a great opportunity to call in and talk to them. You've got skeptics, sex coach, godless, just hot buttered awesome, ready to tell you how and why you might not be aware that, I know this is going to come as a surprise for some of you guys. Being a woman in a world that is ostensibly run and influenced by versions of religion that don't value them as real people, kind of a pain in the fucking ass.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they tell me.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
All right.
Just a few more minutes now. I think they're about to go live. We will have the schedule for April going live very soon. Sorry, we don't have everything ironed out yet, but
I can give some spoilers.
Oh yeah.
People have been complaining that I am not on the line and saying I've quit or been fired or something like that, which I'm very offended because I feel like Matt and I have been hanging out at least once a month on here. But no, I haven't been on Chewed Gum because I live in Finland now. And it starts at 2 a.m. my time. And I tried to do that 2 years ago. I won't do it again. It was awful. It would like mess up my whole sleep schedule, all of that. I might do a couple this summer when it's bright the entire night because at that point I'll be messed up anyways. But I will be doing the next few, not the next two, but after that I will be doing several Monday. Is it Calling It Now or Cus I Wanna? I should know. I am going to get fired. Calling It Now with Jimmy on Monday afternoons because it will be evening my time, kind of like this. So I'll actually be hanging out again more consistently, and everyone can stop thinking that I quit or I got fired, which is extremely
and I'm going to make sure that I do some live shows on my channel at a time of day where someone in Finland might be available to come hang out with me.
Wow, that would be a blast. See, everybody, I'm not fired and everyone still likes me. So there.
I just got the okay. We are live. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
You can like, you can subscribe. You can go to patreon.com/calltheline. You can go to linemerch.com. You can just sit here and wait because it's going to roll you over in another show. There's a list of the Patreon producers, the people like that have helped make this network and these shows function. But all you really need to do, apart from giving us all your money, is show up and tell people about the show and make sure we get better calls for us to interact with. Please take care. Bye-bye.